Welcome to the final day of the National Championships. The 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships now underway with the women's intermediate quad final on the water and streaking down to the finish line. I'm Mark Purcell here with Jenny Bean Scubin to call the races today on this final championship day of the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. 38 events will be crowning champions today in this race, and what a beautiful morning, Jenny, for these races.
We have really lucked out with the weather today, Mark. It is lovely outside, smooth, flat water, nice sunshine, not too hot. It looks great.
So the women's intermediate quad final has OKC High Performance Center's B-Boat in lane 1, the U19 Women's Selection Camp in lane 2, the U18 Girls High Performance Team Composite in lane 3, Orion in lane 4, the OKC A-Boat in lane 5, and the Under-18 Girls HPT B-Boat in lane 6. And right now it is Orion streaking out to a full boat-length lead over the rest of the pack. As they row through the first 500 meters, they have a boat length over the second-place boat from the Under-18 Girls High Performance Team and also the Oklahoma City High Performance Center A-Boat. Right there in the mix and fighting, as is the Under-19 Women's Selection Camp boat.
They have really jumped out to an early lead here, and they must have just a fantastic start. Feeling good about this race so far.
The OKC B-Boat also in the mix out there, fighting for that third place spot. But 1, 2, 3, as we see it right now, about 750 meters in, is Orion in first. The Under-18 Girls High Performance Team Composite in lane 3 in second, and the OKC HP Center A-Boat in third.
That Orion boat is really moving well. They've got great hands together. As you can see, they're extending their lead slightly. They've opened up a little bit of open water just over the last couple of meters.
We started this championship regatta with 1,200 entries from 102 clubs scheduled to compete. 62 events are scheduled during these national championship races and events in the under-17, under-19, intermediate and elite senior categories. We are in the intermediate and elite senior categories for the championship Sunday here today, awarding the gold in 38 different races, including the elite senior singles for both the women and the men, part of the U.S. Lotman Challenge. That's coming up just a little later this morning. We'll be rowing through about 11 o'clock, have a lunch break a little after 11 of about an hour, and then the afternoon of racing continuing through about 3:30 or so. During the afternoon, due to some races that did not have entries, there will be some gaps in the competition, but we will keep you abreast of the schedule situation as it unfolds. Beautiful day here at Harsha Lake in East Fork State Park in Bethel, Ohio, just east of Cincinnati. 72 degrees, a beautiful morning here, Jenny, and perfect for rowing. I know there's a lot of pumped rowers ready for these championship races.
Oh, this is an exciting day, Mark, and the water makes it even more exciting. You have just nice, smooth conditions, very little wind. It's perfect for these rowers.
So the first race underway as things fire up for this championship Sunday. Again, the women's intermediate quad final, Orion continuing to lead with the Under-18 Girls High Performance Team and the OKC High Performance Center A-Boat continuing to pursue and try to track them down. But the U19 Women's Selection Camp boat and the OKC B-Boat in lane 1 still tracking those leaders.
Those crews are all together right now, so far as we can tell, and they're all moving well together. It doesn't look like anyone has really made a huge adjustment to their stroke rating at this point in the race, which would be a little unusual. So they're all just rowing their race plan and looking to execute.
Well, Orion won their semifinal yesterday by almost 15 seconds, but their time is just about 5 seconds off that of the Under-18 Girls High Performance Team Composite that's right beside them in lane 3. So we'll see who has what as they drag race towards the finish line. A lot of excitement on the beach, the final day of the national championships. A lot of gold medals to hand out. Again, 38 races will be decided for the championship today. And this is the first, the women's intermediate quads.
It appears that Orion is still hanging on to the lead here. But that lane 3 boat moving up.
Getting to hear the cheers of the crowd on the beach. Orion in the lead with the under-18 girls high performance team holding on to second, and OKC in third. But things can change, as we have seen in these women's quads. Orion, though, with a substantial lead and racing towards the finish line. And here they come for the first national championship race of the day. It's Orion in lane 4, winning the national championship in the women's intermediate quad. Coming up for the silver, the under-18 girls high performance team composite. Then a hard pull from the under-19 women's selection camp, trying to catch up with OKC, but OKC crosses for the bronze just ahead of the under-19 women's selection camp. And the OKC's B boat crossing along with the under-18 B boat as well. First race for the national championships. Orion winning that national championship gold and a time of 6:53.29. Well, nice showing from Orion there. And, of course, today, Jenny, is not only the individual races, but team points, too.
Well, that's great for those teams, and Orion has really produced a lot of great finalists here. We see that name often in the finals lineup. So looking forward to seeing what those teams are going to produce over the course of the day.
From the quads to the doubles next. The men's intermediate doubles will be racing. Then we'll be heading towards the men's intermediate 8s, and then lightweight quads and lightweight 4s, the next 3 or 4 races on the schedule. The men's intermediate double, by the way, we're racing on 8-minute centers today, so a race every 8 minutes going for the gold here at Harsha Lake. The lineup for the men's intermediate doubles down in the start right now. It's Robertson and Oldigis from OKC in lane 1, Sauer and Hobbs from Orion in lane 2, Quintiliani and Lauder from Conshohocken in lane 3, Higgins and Neal from Undine in lane 4, Messner and Chance from USTC Oakland in lane 5, and Dexter and Lowry from Saratoga in lane 6, and they are underway. And I remember the semifinals yesterday. Remember Saratoga, Dexter and Lowry there, they were rowing in lane 6 with a big push at the end and crossing. They seemed to be out of the race with 300 meters to go, but boy, they really came back.
That was a very exciting race yesterday, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Dexter and Lowry can put together today. Looks like everyone is off to a nice clean start. They're settling into their race pace now.
Heading into the first 500, they've about completed the first 500 in the race for the men's intermediate doubles. We'd like to thank, by the way, our in-kind and event sponsors: Chick-fil-A Eastgate, Chick-fil-A Milford, Penn Station, Everything Bagel, Koenig, Jersey Mike's, Frost Brown and Todd, ProSource, Scene 75, and Sweet and Savory Express for their generous support of these 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. And boy, out fast, Messner and Chance from the U.S. Training Center Oakland in an early lead by about half a boat length over Higgins and Neal from Undine, who had a blazingly hot qualifying semifinal yesterday. In the meantime, battling for third, it is Dexter and Lowry from Saratoga, who we mentioned just a moment ago, as well as Quintiliani and Lauder from Conshohocken. But not out of the mix, Robertson and Oldigis from OKC, and Sauer and Hobbs from Orion. So really, all these boats still in the hunt.
They are all in the hunt. It looks like Messner and Chance are possibly losing their lead just a slight bit. It looks to me that Higgins and Neal have moved a little bit on them, but it could be anyone at this point.
As I said, perfect conditions for rowing and even better conditions for racing on this Sunday morning here at Harsha Lake, East Fork State Park. We're about 25 miles east of Cincinnati in the heart of Claremont County, Ohio. Bethel, Ohio, our closest town to where we're sitting right now, but we're surrounded by thousands of acres of beautiful woodlands and this beautiful lake as well. Perfect rowing lake. Very nice course here. Protected at the start in a cove and then racing towards a finish right on the beach. So big thrill for the rowers to hear the roar of the crowd when they come in front of the beach, and a big thrill for the crowd to see a significant portion of the races as well.
It is, it is. This is just a great place to row. It's a great place to race. I really enjoy it out here. Looks like Messner and Chance still holding on to that lead, looking to gain some open water. And Higgins and Neal have tried to deny that to them. They're still hanging on right there on their stern.
In the meantime, Robertson and Oldiges from OKC have moved into third. And really, it's a toss-up for third at this point, because Lowry and Dexter and Lowry from Saratoga, as well as Quintiliani and Lauder from Conshohocken, are right there in the mix for that third. But advantage right now to Robertson and Oldiges from OKC as they head to and through the 1,000-meter mark. However, Sauer and Hobbs from Orion, they are not out of the game by any means. And as a matter of fact, they're beginning to walk up a little and begin to challenge both the Conshohocken boat and the the Saratoga boat for a spot.
That Orion boat looks like they are finding a little bit more energy here. Perhaps their race plan to hold back in the first half of the race, really surge forward in the second half.
Well, it's out front. It's Messner and Chance from USTC Oakland and Higgins and Neal from Undine. And I will tell you that Messner and Chance had about 3.5 second advantage in the semis time-wise over the Higgins and Neal boat from Undine. But Championship Sunday, anything can happen.
That's right. Some of these crews may not have wanted to show their hands too much in the time trials and in the semifinals. They might have kind of intentionally held back. You never know what's going to happen.
Continuing to lead and press forward in the final 350 meters of the race, Messner and Chance from USTC Oakland blazing down this course in the men's intermediate doubles. And remember, we talked about this yesterday, Jenny. Some of these rowers, this is just their first race of the day. They will be back in other races, some in singles, some in quads a little later.
That's right. So they have to consider maybe what else is their priority today. If there are other races that are higher up on their list, something that their coach may think is more important. But overall, when you're out on the water, you're giving everything you've got. There's that excitement around you. There's the other crews pulling. There's the refs behind you. You just kind of go into autopilot, and the adrenaline takes over.
Robertson and Oldiges from OKC on the move in lane one, trying to take over second from Higgins and Neal of Undine. In the meantime, Messner and Chance from USTC Oakland in the lead here in the championship race for the men's intermediate doubles, as they are 70 meters from the finish, looking strong. Messner and Chance from the U.S. Training Center in Oakland. In the meantime, Undine's Higgins and Neal holding on for second, and here comes the race for bronze. A big push again from Dexter and Lowry of Saratoga, and they come to the line and will have the bronze. Then it's going to be Quintiliani and Lauder from Conshohocken, followed by Robertson and Oldiges from OKC, and Sauer and Hobbs from Orion. What a race there, and again, a big finish from the Saratoga boat.
Yes, that Saratoga boat really likes to come in late and press towards the end. At this point, though, in this race, they seem to have just run out of room if they were hoping to catch the first place or even the second place crew. But they made a huge move there towards the end.
Mesner and Chance from USTC Oakland winning in a time of 6:45.38. And that, I have to say, is even faster than their semifinal win yesterday. It was very impressive. They beat their time yesterday by about 3.5 seconds. So a great row from Mesner and Chance from the USTC Oakland there in the men's intermediate double final.
You know, conditions, sometimes you can say that conditions play a role in the difference between times from one day to the next when you're looking at the same crew. But here today we have the same quiet, flat water, very little wind as we had yesterday. So the crews really can post some great times.
Remember to stop by the U.S. Rowing membership tent to relax after your championship race. Get off your feet, charge your phone, check the racing results in the championships. Also grab some snacks and stickers and sticky wallops and pop sockets for free at the U.S. Rowing membership tent. The next of the championship races for this Sunday underway now. The men's intermediate eights, the big boats already underway heading towards the 500-meter mark with Potomac in lane 1, TBC Racing in lane 2, the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp in lane 3, Mendota in lane 4, New York AC in lane 5, and the Mendota B boat in lane 6. And what a sight this is on this pretty low light morning here with the colors on the water, Jenny.
I love to see these big boats out racing early, and it's a great feeling to get these big, exciting races over with first thing in the morning.
It looks like the Mendota A boat in lane 4 out to an early lead. Very visible with their white unis of the red diagonal stripe going across them. The red of Potomac in lane 1 also standing out on this course, and as they head through the 500-meter mark, it's Mendota by a boat length with the New York AC boat hot on their trail. TBC right in the mix as well. 1, 2, 3 right there. And then the remaining 3 boats in the race are bow ball to bow ball as they go through that 500-meter mark.
This is really shaping up to be a close race. Perhaps first and second, there might be a battle, but certainly for second and third.
On this final day of the National Championships, we have to thank our sponsors. Powering the lives of the community, Duke Energy, proud to be a sponsor of the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championship. Holman Motors Incorporated, your Batavia Buick and GMC truck dealer. Stop by their Cincinnati area dealership to find the right truck or used car for you. And Park National Bank believes that strong communities are built with local volunteers, donations, and leadership. That's why you'll find Park bankers volunteering their time, working with local organizations to help our community thrive. Learn more about Park National Bank, the bank that's helping to build a stronger community at parknationalbank.com.
Boy, this is a battle for second right here, Mark. These
Well,
boats are just trading back and forth. It looks like currently the TBC Racing boat has a couple of seats over New York AC, but Mendota is out. Clearly, they don't have open water yet, but they are moving well.
Mendota in the lead, but TBC is hot on their track. They are in touch with that boat in the front, but that New York AC boat is as well. So Mendota feeling the pressure. In the meantime, lurking in between those boats is the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat, right there about a half a boat length behind that fight for second. Then it's back to Potomac and the Mendota B boat, but out front, Mendota A in lane 4, continuing to lead the men's intermediate eights.
Boy, New York AC has made their move, and they are, even if not up a seat, over TBC Racing. And they're moving slightly on Mendota. They have some good contact now. Their bow seat is close to the coxswain of the Mendota boat. So if New York AC can keep this up, they might challenge Mendota for the lead.
Now TBC right there with them, and as is the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat. Quite a sight to see as they approach the 1,500-meter mark.
High Performance Camp boat seemed to be really finding a surge there. They were moving up on TBC and New York AC, so perhaps it's their race plan to kind of hold back until the last half of the race, last third of the race, and they are moving well. The New York AC again making some strides into the Mendota boat, but they just may run out of water
Well, TBC doing the same. We'll have to see how it hangs out. It looks like TBC's on the move right now, beginning to surge forward as well. Mendota trying to cling to the lead. The junior men's high performance boat in lane 3, continuing to build speed as well. And the New York AC boat is now beginning to walk up on that boat from Mendota. But as you say, they're running out of water, Jenny.
They are running out of water, and the junior men's high performance camp, it looked like they just took up their stroke rating. So they're putting on the pressure here. We're coming into the just last part of the race. They're closing in on the 250 to go. And this is sprint time. They've got to take it up and hang on to it.
Well, and Mendota no doubt wanting to take it up and continue to hold on to the lead and grab that gold medal here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. Here they come past the beach with Mendota still in the lead. New York AC beginning to surge. TBC trying to keep up, but the high-performance boat in between in lane 3 is beginning to catch up with them. Here comes New York AC charging up on Mendota. They only have 50 meters to go to the finish here in the men's intermediate 8. This is for the national championship. Mendota glances to their left, and as they come to the line, just 3 seats behind, but it is still the boat from Mendota with the gold. New York AC will have to settle for silver. Crossing the line, the high-performance men's boat will take bronze, snatching it from TBC at just the last moment. Then it's the boat from Potomac and the Mendota B boat in the men's intermediate 8s. What a surge from New York AC there at the end.
Boy, that was an exciting race to watch. They had their race plan, and really, if they had wanted to snatch away first, they just needed another 100 to 200 meters to do it.
Apologies for the momentary break in the action as there were some technical difficulties to overcome, but we are back on the air for the U.S. Rowing 2019 National Championships from Harsha Lake in Bethel, Ohio. I'm Mark Purcell with Jenny Bean-Scubin, and we are watching the men's intermediate lightweight quads come down the racetrack right now. The lineup is Belen Jesuit Crew Composite in lane 1, Detroit Boat Club Composite in lane 2, the OKC HP Center in lane 3, Minnesota Development Camp in lane 4, Cincinnati in lane 5, Undine in lane 6, and Greater Dayton Composite in lane 7. And it does look like it's the OKC High Performance Center that is really performing in this race.
They do. They look like they have a commanding lead at this point. And then perhaps the Greater Dayton or the Undine crews are closing in. Of course, I'm rooting for Cincinnati as the local crew, but certainly that OKC crew is really way out ahead.
The Greater Dayton Composite in second right now, and then it's a battle for the bronze shaping up between Undine, Cincinnati, and the Minnesota Development Camp, with the Detroit Boat Club Composite not far out, but out in front by a substantial margin and racing towards the finish in the men's intermediate lightweight quads. It's the OKC High Performance Center in lane 3.
They're really moving well together, getting a nice spacing with the puddles, grabbing a lot of water.
Looking very strong. We weren't able to catch the earlier portion of the race to see exactly when this boat from the Oklahoma City High Performance Center went out in front, but they look like they've been leading for quite a while. And as they come down, they are already into those red buoys in the final 250 meters of the course. And the second place boat just getting there, but it's OKC way out ahead in the men's intermediate lightweight quads.
They are moving very well. I saw the bow seat kind of just take a glance around just to make sure he wasn't missing anything. But they definitely aren't. They can see the whole field out in front of them as they surge ahead towards the finish.
For the gold in the men's intermediate lightweight quads, the Oklahoma City High Performance Center boat in lane 3, crossing the line with a true championship performance. Here in lane 7, the Greater Dayton Composite boat stroking for the silver, and then here comes the race for the bronze. It looks like the Undine boat has pushed ahead of both Cincinnati and the Detroit Boat Club Composite. They'll cross for the bronze, followed by a close race between Cincinnati and the Detroit Boat Club Composite and the Belen Jesuit 2.
Like
but the
Cincinnati.
OKC High Performance Center, look at that, almost 12 seconds of a win.
That's a great, great win for them. They must be feeling wonderful about that finish. Very powerful all the way through the race.
Men's intermediate lightweight quads there, racing for the gold on this championship Sunday. The U.S. Rowing National Championships would like to thank Mercy Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for providing an athletic trainer throughout the week. Mercy Health has convenient locations throughout greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, and well respected for making a difference in people's lives. For more information about Mercy Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, visit mercy.com/ortho. From high overhead and our drone, we see a nice shot of the beach here at Harsha Lake. The team tents, the college fair tent, and the finish line all set up in the middle of this beautiful state park, and a look at Harsha Lake and its extensive coverage of water that allows us to have this 2,000-meter high-quality rowing course for these national championships.
It is a lot of fun to row out here, Mark. I've had a lot of experience racing here and just rowing out here for fun. And it's a great place, a lot of wonderful places to get back into the lake and just enjoy yourself.
We have the men's intermediate lightweight 4 final on the water right now. There were scheduled 5 boats to compete, but I'm only counting 4 that are racing right now. We'll have to find out the story about that. The lineup is New York AC in lane 2, Belen Jesuit in lane 3, Resilient in lane 4, Lincoln Park in lane 5, and New York AC's B boat in lane 6. It appears the Lincoln Park boat might be the one that is not in this race right now. And boy, what a race in the outside lanes here to begin with.
That's right. It looks like both New York AC boats are really challenging each other. Boats that have probably rowed together a lot and competed against each other a lot. So this is a familiar feel for them.
I was going to give the advantage to the B boat, but it looks like the A's right there. In the meantime, Belen Jesuit right there hanging on their sterns and in the mix, perhaps moving forward a little bit to try to threaten for second. Then the boat from Resilient hanging on in fourth at this time.
You know, I think you're right, Mark. The New York ACB boat is looking pretty strong right now. They might be neck and neck, if not have a slight lead.
You can see the wakeless launches following these boats. You see the men and ladies in blue, our U.S. rowing referees on the beach or around the regatta venue. Please thank them for helping us keep these races fair and safe. They've been working hard all week long. As they pass the boat ramp, we do see that it is the New York ACA boat that has the lead over the New York ACB boat. Belen Jesuit in third right now, but sticking right to the stern and in the mix in those top three.
And here again we see that bucket rig from the New York AC boat. A port stroke with 2 starboards and then another port. Getting more common these days, Mark, as crews really fine-tune and tweak where each rower is supposed to be in their boat and how the boat flows best together.
And some of these rowers are set up to be either port or starboard, and sometimes they find that in this combination, it could be not just the oars are changing, but it's the rowers themselves who are dictating a bucket being set up.
That's true, although most of the time, you know, your rowers, at least at this level, in sweep rowing, when they have a side, they're going to stick to it. I don't find that there are too many rowers who can switch from port to starboard and do it well. Really at this high elite level, they're going to kind of specialize in one side or another because those muscles develop differently on one side of your body versus the other. So there are some rowers who can switch back and forth, but for the most part, once you are a port or a starboard, that's how you are labeled for the rest of your life. As I have found as a port, there's just no way that I can shake it.
New York AC boat with a big move right there at 1,000 meters. They really dug in, Jenny, and started to move forward. They're still in the lead over the New York AC boat. In the meantime, Belen Jesuit trying to chase them down and chase down the other New York AC boat. In the mix is Resilient too, but they are now about a boat length back. But a big move from the New York ACA boat as they began to plow forward at the halfway point.
That's right. You don't see a huge separation here from these crews. They're all still pretty close together, and they have some contact with each other. We don't have anyone with a ton of open water at this point.
New York AC has been in the running for the Team Cup in the past, and they may do so again today on the final day of finals for the national championships. Now, there's the overall points trophy, the women's point trophy, and the men's point trophy. And at the start of this morning, and as of currently, according to Here and Now, it's TBC Racing with a lead over Row America Rye in the overall points trophy, but it's only a 6-point lead for TBC. In the women's points, Row West Racing Camp over Saugatuck by about 13 points. And then in the men's point, it's TBC Racing over Row America Rye by 3 points. So still some races to win to make your chances for one of the Team Cups even better as we look at the points trophies for the national championship for 2019. New York AC beginning to try to stretch their lead, but their B boat on the far side of the course in lane 6 is really keeping up with them.
Well, they're not letting go, are they? Now, these two crews, though, have pulled away from the Resilient and the Belen Jesuit crews. So we see some open water between second and third, and between third and fourth. So it seems pretty set it's going to be one or the other New York AC boat coming in either first or second. And at this point, that New York ACA boat is looking pretty strong.
A great shot of the coxswain working there in the front, steering the boat, coaxing the rowers to give it their all as they enter the red buoys in the final portion of this 2,000-meter race. The New York AC boat, a great picture here on Harsha Lake as we are rowing for the gold in the national championships.
They are getting into the red buoys now, so this is the point where they need to make their sprint and take it up, power it through to the finish line.
led from the beginning, continuing to lead. The boat from the New York Athletic Club in lane 2, stroking for the gold in the national championships. Their teammates in the B boat in lane 6, stroking to try to keep up with them. They'll cross in second. Belen Jesuit with a big push at the end, making up some ground but not gaining enough, as they will cross the line in third in the men's intermediate lightweight fours here in the championship final, and Resilient following them up. A big cheer from the boat at New York AC as they are the gold medal winners.
It's an exciting race for them, and I'm sure they're very excited for their teammates there coming in second. That's a good finish for both New York AC boats.
6:54.43, the winning time for the men's intermediate lightweight 4 gold medal boat of New York AC. The Clermont County Convention and Visitors Bureau is proud to host the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. The CVB is a professional destination marketing and sales organization whose primary responsibility is to positively impact Clermont County's economy through increased visitor spending from leisure travelers, groups, meetings, sports tournaments, and events like these national championships. Visit ClermontOhio.com for your travel information. And perhaps while you're here, you could spend some time in the beautiful East Fork State Park and dip your toes in the beautiful Harsha Lake.
It's a great place to be. I've done some hiking out here. Water sports obviously is a wonderful thing to do out here, but there's also miles and miles of trails. It's a good time.
Mountain bike trails, too.
That's right.
The women's intermediate lightweight double final on the course and racing towards the finish for the gold medal in the women's intermediate lightweight double. There's Taranis and Daly from Detroit in lane 1, Evans and Ramaraju from Y-Quad Cities in lane 2, Swardstrom and Hopper from Row West Racing Camp in lane 3, Bushman and Bushman from Greater Columbus Composite in lane 4, Miletick and Satterfield from Y-Quad Cities in lane 5, and Davis and Collins from Potomac in lane 6. The women's intermediate lightweight double final with Bushman and Bushman, that Greater Columbus composite, out in front by a half a boat length right now, but being hotly pursued by Swardstrom and Hopper from Row West Racing Camp.
That's a great lead from Bushman and Bushman, and you have to imagine, Mark, if they're rowing together, I have a feeling they're probably related.
Yes, I think so. We had different clubs yesterday, but
right.
Yeah, I think the sisters may be teaming up here. But boy, look at this race, very close in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles, with about 2.5 boat lengths separating the leader's bow from the stern of the boat that is in the back. And right now, Bushman and Bushman, looking to extend their lead, have now got a little bit of open water, a hint of open water between their stern and the bow of the pursuing Row West Racing Camp boat next to them. In the meantime, the battle for third right across the course between Davis and Collins from Potomac, Miletick and Satterfield from Y-Quad Cities, and Taranis and Daly from Detroit.
Bushman and Bushman are looking very strong, opening up a nice lead there. They've got some open water over their second place competitors, coming in and really moving the boat very well. I have a feeling that they get a lot of time together in the boat.
Bushman and Bushman, the Greater Columbus composite, leading the women's intermediate lightweight doubles. Swardstrom and Hopper from Row West Racing Camp trying to catch up with them. In the meantime, again, a fight right across the course with the Detroit boat in lane 1, Y-Quad Cities in lane 5, Potomac in lane 6, and really a fight that with all the boats that are in the race right now, that pack that's fighting for third within a boat length and a half of each other, so very much in contact and very much in the hunt.
These doubles races are a longer race. It's going to take you a longer time to get to the finish than it would in a quad, certainly. And so you really have to commit to your race plan and dig in for that period of time. And right now, these women are feeling the pain, and they're coming up on the midway point of the race. So they're looking to make their move if they've got one. If they have it in the tank, then they need to really start moving to challenge that first place crew of Bushman and Bushman.
believe this may have been one of the races that we'll see today that did not have a semifinal yesterday. This is a race that went straight to final. So these boats are meeting for the first time, really haven't seen their competition before this race. And that can make a race shape up in a different way.
It really can. If you don't know what to expect, you're not sure how your competitor is going to perhaps jump out to an early lead and fade towards the end, or whether they're the crew who makes that late push. So there are times when that may change your approach to the race. But it looks like still the Bushman boat is really moving well, has that open water, and it's a race for second at this point between the Row West Racing Camp and the Y Quad Cities boat.
Y Quad Cities with the advantage, I think, right now for that second place, but not much of an advantage. They've really made a move up because the Row West Racing Camp was about a boat length ahead of them, but right now it's Y Quad Cities in second with the Row West Racing Camp boat of Swartstrom and Hopper in lane 3 right there and clinging to them. In the meantime, the other 3 boats in the race, the Potomac boat in lane 6, Y Quad Cities in lane 2, and Detroit in lane 1 are vying for a spot for 4th at this point, with an advantage to Tyrannus and Daly from Detroit in lane 1, who may have their bow out in front of the other 2 boats there for 4th.
Y Quad Cities made a great move there. They have to make sure to keep their line. There was a little bobble in their steering. You want to really stay as straight as you can in these races. Make sure that you're not rowing any extra meters by dodging to one side or the other.
Here they are with about 750 meters to go in this 2,000-meter championship race for the national title in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles. Looking for that energy. And speaking of energy, Lycans Energy Solutions, a proud sponsor of this year's U.S. rowing events. Please think of them when choosing an electricity supplier, a heating oil, or propane supplier for your home or business. Bushman and Bushman, the Greater Columbus Composite, really moving nicely on the water and out in front of this race for the gold in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles. Hotly rowing after them. It's Miletick and Satterfield from Y Quad Cities and Swartstrom and Hopper from Row West Racing Camp. And while I gave advantage to Y Quad Cities a moment ago, they may still have a little bit of an advantage, but Row West is really giving them a run for their money too.
They are giving them a run for their money. It looks like Y Quad Cities has taken their rating up. They are really pressing here and giving it their all towards the finish. And now it looks like Row West has started to answer. But Y Quad Cities has the higher stroke rating as they move into the final 250.
A little more than 300 meters out, Y Quad Cities kicked it up into overdrive, and they are beginning to try to walk up on that boat from Columbus, the Greater Columbus Composite. But out front, Bushman and Bushman are giving a clinic on rowing these women's intermediate lightweight doubles in this championship as they continue to stroke towards the finish line and the gold.
They look very strong, and hopefully Y Quad Cities hasn't taken their sprint too soon. If you do that and then you run out of gas, then that spells trouble as you come into the finish. If you are really right next to another crew challenging them for second place, like Y Quad Cities and Row West Racing Camp are doing here, trading back and forth.
What a nice display from Bushman and Bushman, the Greater Columbus Composite, as they row for the gold in the national championships. Here's a big push from Y Quad Cities trying to snatch the silver, but Row West Racing Camp has their silver in mind. And as they come to the line, I think they're going to be too close to call. It may be, well, I'm not even going to try to guesstimate whose bow ball went across first, but what a race there. Now here's a race for 4th between Y Quad Cities and Detroit. Y Quad Cities with a big pull in the final 10 meters, and they will get their deck out in front of the boat from Detroit. And then Davis and Collins from Potomac crossing the line. And that's top to bottom in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles with Bushman and Bushman, the Greater Columbus Composite, winning at a time of 7:42.61.
That Y Quad Cities boat really had a late surge, and then they faded a touch at the end and then really pulled it out to eke out the Row West Racing Camp for the silver medal. Apologies.
A shot of Bushman and Bushman there in the boat in the lightweight double having won the gold here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. I'm Mark Purcell calling the races here with Jenny Bean Scubin on this Sunday morning with 38 championship events being decided today. We are a handful of events into the day, so 30-plus races still to go here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. And the next race, every 8 minutes, a championship race rolling. It's coming down the track right now, the women's intermediate 4 final. With Row West Racing Camp in lane 1, the under-18 girls high-performance team composite B team in lane 2, the under-19 women's selection camp B boat in lane 3, the U19 women's selection camp A boat in lane 4, their C boat in lane 5, and the under-18 girls high-performance team composite in lane 6 in the women's intermediate 4s. So this will be a battle among teammates with 3 U19 women's selection camp boats and 2 under-18 girls high-performance team boats, along with the Row West Racing Camp boat in this race, and 3 out front just to begin with here.
It looks like the U19 Women's Selection Camp C boat really had a strong start off the line, and they are currently in the lead, and I'm sure that their teammates under the U19 Selection Camp A and B boats are going to give them a challenge for that lead.
It is those 3 U19 women's selection camp boats out in front, but lurking in lane 1, the Row West Racing Camp boat right there with them and in contact, only a few seats behind. They're followed by the under-18 girls high-performance team B boat and the U18 girls high-performance team A boat. But out in front, the 3 under-19 women's selection camp. But look at this move happening in lane 1, the lane closest to the center of the lake, the Row West Racing Camp boat trying to sneak up in that pack.
They are. They're really hanging on and executing their race plan. It looks like the U19A boat is trying to take the lead from their C boat, while the U19B boat is just kind of hanging back there and waiting for their chance. But Row West Racing Camp is right in the mix, along with the U18 High Performance Composite team in lane 6.
A race unfolding right here. We just saw quite a race in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles. Bushman and Bushman, the gold medal winners, will be competing against each other later in the day in the lightweight singles. So it'll be interesting to see that little bit of sisterly competition happening.
That's right. That's right. That can be pretty exciting. It looks like the C boat, really the U19 C boat, is fighting back here and kind of letting the A boat know, hey, we've got the first part of the race here. So they are charging out ahead at this point, and then with the A boat coming in second right now, we've still got some contact between the boats, but they're starting to spread out just a bit with the B boat.
There at the 1,000-meter mark, that C boat from the under-19 women's selection camp really surged ahead, and I'm seeing open water between their stern and the bow of the second-place A boat.
It makes you think that perhaps the coach might have played a little trick on everyone here by listing the C boat with filling the C boat with his top athletes.
We'll see how it shakes out, but the under-19 women's selection camp boats A, B, and C out in front, 1, 2, 3, but it's C, A, B in that order in the 1, 2, 3. In the meantime, the other 3 boats in this race trying to maintain contact. The Row West Racing Camp right there challenging for that 3rd spot, but moving up fast is the under-18 girls high-performance team B boat, as well as the under-18 girls high-performance team A boat. So all these boats are fiercely competing all the way down the water in this 2,000-meter race.
You know, we have this race filled with a lot of these high-performance camps. And these are really elite training camps. These are rowers who are training multiple times a day. They are really in it, looking forward, I think, towards more national championships and possibly towards the Olympics.
The C boat from the under-19 women's selection camp, now a boat length of open water ahead of their A boat, which is about a boat length ahead of the B boat, which is about a boat length ahead of the boat from Row West Racing Camp, Actually, I think it's a little less than a boat length back to the Row West Racing Camp. The Row West Racing Camp really beginning to move forward, as is the under 18 girls high performance team composite in lane 6. They are moving forward. Hard to call for 4th place right now because they are very, very close together. But the Sea Boat continuing to surge forward, Jenny.
They have a commanding lead at this point, but that U18 girls high performance composite in lane 6, they may challenge for 3rd.
It'll all come down to the line here in the women's intermediate 4 final for the national championship here for 2019.
Those coxswains are calling their crews up. They've got the red buoys in sight, and they are sprinting to the finish. This is where you pour it all on.
That Sea Boat from the under-19 women's selection camp certainly making a statement, fending off the competition. But look at all these Bowels beginning to line up behind them. It'll be a battle for 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th. Of course, you want to be 2nd or 3rd and get a medal here at the national championships. But here they come. The women's selection camp A boat in lane 4, chasing the Sea Boat in lane 5, but coming across with an open water lead. It's the under-19 women's selection camp Sea Boat winning the women's intermediate 4 final. The A boat from that selection camp will cross in 2nd, and here comes the race for 3rd. A big push from a lot of the boats behind them, and it's going to be very tight for that bronze, but I might give a slight advantage to the other U19 selection camp boat. The B boat may have slipped in just ahead of the under-18 high-performance team and Row West Racing Camp and the other under-18 girls high-performance team composite.
That's right. It looks like they did come in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the U19 women's selection camp. So what a great race for that group, for that high-performance team.
And boy, did they make a statement with their win there. Look at that time, Jenny. 7:10:26, almost 10 seconds ahead of their A boat. So congratulations to the under-19 women's selection camp Sea Boat for their gold medal at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. We're on Harsha Lake, about 25 miles east of Cincinnati, the city that invented hustle. The Cincinnati region really glitters with a view and vibe unmistakably its own. Visit CincyUSA.com for restaurant ideas, maps, coupons, and more. That's Cincy with a Y, USA.com. The team tents here on the beach as we are watching the championship races for this Sunday morning in the National Championship for 2019. The men's intermediate pairs final underway with Wheeler and Olson of Mendota in lane 1. Todd and Piers from Minnesota Development Camp in lane 2. Lillet and Palmer from Mendota in lane 3. Wecking and Young from Mendota in lane 4. Ellis and Brown from Greater Columbus in lane 5. And Robinson, Page Cure from the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp in lane 6. And they are very early in the race, just approaching 500. And Ellis and Brown from Greater Columbus, who I remember from yesterday in their semifinal, put on quite a display of their skills.
Yes, they look very strong here, out ahead of the Mendota boats. And really early in the race, but they have a nice, comfortable lead at this point, so they should be feeling pretty good, looking to execute their plan and surge ahead. They don't have open water yet, but they are working on it.
Lillet and Palmer from Mendota, the one racing in lane 3, winning their semifinal yesterday in a time of 7:09.98, and Wecking and Young right beside him from Mendota in lane 4 at a time of 7:08.12. But all these boats looking very evenly matched here in this championship run as the Ellis and Brown boat from Greater Columbus begins to give a little bit as that boat from Mendota of Wecking and Young begins to move forward. And still threatening, too, is Tardrew and Piers from the Minnesota Development Camp right there with Lillet and Palmer from Mendota.
Now I saw the referee have to signal the Mendota crews. They were pulling together towards the sides of their lanes and looking like they might have some contact. So they had to adjust their steering, and hopefully they can keep a straight course for the rest of this race. But that Minnesota Development Camp boat is looking good. They're really moving up on the other crews and giving a challenge even to second place. And the lead is slim now for Ellis and Brown of Greater Columbus. That Wecking and Young boat is moving up.
So we're looking across the course here. From our view from the opposite side, lane 1 is the lane closest to the center of the lake. So right now, as we are looking at this shot being streamed live on the US Rowing YouTube channel, we're looking at lane 1 in the foreground. 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the 4 boats in the lead, and then 6 on the outside. So just a reminder, as when we come to the finish line, sometimes you're seeing the view from the opposite side of the course, as is the case here. And as I said, the lane 1 is on the far side, the right side of the screen that you're seeing right here, closest to the center of the lake, and lane 6 and 7 closest to the beach as they come down to the finish line. And right now it's the boats in lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are neck and neck through the 1,000-meter mark.
Boy, they really are. That Greater Columbus boat had a strong lead, and then they lost it. The Mendota boats moving up along with the Minnesota Development Camp boats, pressing ahead, and at this point it looks to me like Wecking and Young, the Mendota boat in lane 4, might have taken over the lead from the Greater Columbus team.
And as you see the referee boats in the back, you see the white flags overhead and then pointing in a direction. There, the referee indicating the Mendota boat of Lillet and Palmer needs to move out of the way of the boat of Wecking and Young, because they were beginning to walk along the buoy line. And while you don't have to stay in your lane, you can't interfere with other competitors. So you could zigzag all the way down the course. Trust me, that's not the quickest way to do it. But you also have to make sure you're not getting in a competitor's way. Now we're seeing the other referee indicating to the Minnesota Development Camp boat that they need to move off the buoy line and away from the boat from Mendota. So,
and that can really be distracting to crews when you have that that outside comment from the ref that takes you out of your boat and makes you focus on something that you really didn't want to have to focus on. So as a crew, you have to be careful to not let that sort of thing rattle you, to really get back into your game plan, find your line, get your line of sight correct, and get your boat straightened out and continue to execute your race plan.
And we are seeing probably fatigue affecting the navigation of some of these boats. I saw the boat from Greater Columbus beginning to wander onto the buoy line. At the same time, the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat was wandering onto the buoy line. So at that point in the race, in that third 500 with the fatigue setting in, and one rower perhaps being a little stronger than the other, it gets more and more difficult to keep these boats straight. But here we are in the championship run in the men's intermediate pairs final. That boat from Mendota of Wecking and Young came up and did pass the lead boat from Greater Columbus. Now they're trying to hold on to the lead as their teammates Lillet and Palmer begin to threaten, as does the Minnesota Development Camp boat of Tardrew and Piers.
The Wecking and Young team has really rode a nice straight course. They look strong moving together, but they are being challenged, and so they're having to take it up perhaps maybe sooner than they would have liked. But they are definitely, all the crews are sprinting at this point and looking to improve their placement with the Minnesota Development Camp crew really pressing here, trying to get third, but I think they will fall short.
Wecking and Young from Mendota winning the gold, a boat length ahead of their teammates Lillet and Palmer from Mendota. They'll win silver, congratulating each other there after the finish line. Tardrew and Piers from Minnesota Development Camp will hold on for the bronze. In the meantime, the Ellis and Brown boat from Greater Columbus will have to settle for fourth, with a quick move from the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat. They may take fifth from Mendota's Wheeler and Olson on the far side of the course. The men's intermediate pairs final, Wecking and Young winning in a time of 7 even and 93. with the second place boat 7:03:26. Men's intermediate pair final.
That was some strong racing from the Mendota crews, and they didn't let the early lead of Greater Columbus rattle them. So that was a great race plan by the Mendota crews, and some good racing there in the pairs. Not an easy boat to row.
I'm Mark Purcell, and she's Jenny Bean Scubin. We're calling the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships here in Bethel, Ohio on Harsha Lake at East Fork State Park. 38 championships will be crowned. 38 national champions will be crowned today in these races. The next race, the first of the singles that we'll see today, the women's intermediate singles final underway with Rosemary Kine from OKC in lane 1, Jenny Sorley from Carnegie Lake in lane 2, Kaitlyn Gildersleeve from OKC in lane 3, Charlotte Buck from New York AC in lane 4, Rosalina Torsivia from Orion in lane 5, and Mary Caleta from 612 Endurance in lane 6. And Charlotte Buck from New York AC, a big strong showing yesterday in the semifinals. She won with a time of 8:08.5, which is about 5 seconds faster than the winner of the other semifinal, which was Kaitlyn Gildersleeve right beside her. And they are now dueling already in the first 500.
Boy, they are. You know, Kaitlyn Gildersleeve yesterday, as I seem to recall, she had a pretty commanding lead in her race, so maybe she wasn't pressed to put in such a fast time as Charlotte Buck might have been. But here they are neck and neck, opening up some open water over their third and fourth place competitors, which appear to be Rosemary Kine and Jenny Sorley, kind of battling it out for third, with Rosalina Torsivia and Mary Caleta close behind. And at this point, it looks like Kaitlyn Gildersleeve has a slight edge over Charlotte Buck.
We can look at the comparison of the stroke rates as we see this overhead view from the drone. Kaitlyn Gildersleeve just slightly faster on the stroke rate as they're moving along. And Kaitlyn Gildersleeve now out ahead by half a boat length. But very early in this race, when it comes to the singles, there's a lot going on. But we did see in yesterday's semifinal that Kaitlyn Gildersleeve kept up that jumping hot pace all the way down the water.
Boy, she did, and she has a high stroke rating here. Really moving well in her single. Great puddles. And this is the perfect conditions for singles racing. Nice smooth water, no wind. They must be really enjoying this race out there.
Meanwhile, behind them, looking for the grasp on the third place are three boats, really kind of bow ball to bow ball. Rosemary Kine in lane 1, Jenny Sorley from Carnegie Lake in lane 2, and Rosalina Torsivia from Orion in lane 5. They are all bow ball to bow ball right behind them, with Mary Caleta from 612 Endurance slightly off the pace, but I seem to recall that Caleta yesterday in the race kind of hung back until the end and then really had a surge forward. We'll see if she does the same today, but extending her lead and the open water between her stern and the bow of the boat from Charlotte Buck of New York AC, Kaitlyn Gildersleeve continuing to move forward.
Boy, she's really showing them how it's done. But with that high rating, I'm quite impressed that she can maintain that over 2,000 meters.
Kaitlyn Gildersleeve has been really accomplishing a lot at these national championships. She was also rowing in the elite senior singles yesterday in the semifinals, last races of the day. We might see her a little later, because I seem to recall she did a fine job of qualifying for that national championship final as well. She was second in her semifinal, so we'll be heading towards the final in the women's elite seniors singles.
That's right. So not only is she out to a commanding lead here, but she also has to look forward to that women's elite senior single, which is at 12:30 today. So here she is racing at 9 a.m. and then she's going to be putting out another performance in the single at 12:30. So that's got to be in the back of her mind.
Kaitlyn Gildersleeve continuing to stroke at the front of this pack of women's intermediate singles for the national championship, going for the gold. She's extending her lead, now almost 20 meters out ahead of Charlotte Buck from New York AC. And meanwhile, in pursuit and vying for third place between themselves is Rosemary Kine, Jenny Sorley, and Rosalina Torsivia. So they are coming down the course and really battling, pushing hard as they push towards that finish line.
It appears like Jenny Sorley is moving well and really battling at this point Rosemary Torsivia for third place. But boy, Kaitlyn Gildersleeve is just walking away with this. Charlotte Buck doesn't have much of a chance at this point in the race to turn it around unless something major happens.
Self-reliant, these single scullers, having to talk to themselves, encourage themselves, reach deep to find that power to continue to go and row in these 2,000-meter races that consume as much energy as 2 full games of basketball, and you do it in just under 7 minutes. Amazing athletes happening right here as we are seeing Kaitlyn Gildersleeve continue to plow down the course ahead of the pack of the women's intermediate singles.
That's right, and you can see her in that Empacher yellow, really surging ahead. It looks like Charlotte Buck may have caught up to her slightly, but she still has quite a bit of open water. Looking strong, Kaitlyn Gildersleeve here, moving up to the last 250. She should reach those red buoys for the 250 to go pretty quickly. Charlotte Buck is looking good. She's got that second place finish shored up. But it's Kaitlyn Gildersleeve with a commanding lead.
And what a good job of keeping her head in the boat. I have not once seen her glance over her shoulder wondering where she is. She is dead straight, looking back over the stern at the competition, but not turning her head at all, just powering through the water and heading towards the gold in the women's intermediate singles.
Right, and even though she's got this in the bag, you can see her take the rating up slightly. She is just a machine here in this race, knowing where she is and executing her plan regardless of where her competitors may be.
It's the 2019 USRowing National Championships here at Harsher Lake in Bethel, Ohio, as we watch Kaitlyn Gildersleeve stroke towards the gold medal in the women's intermediate singles. She will cross the line first with Charlotte Buck from New York AC in second, and now the battle for third, as it is Rosalina Torsivia from Orion and the boat from Jenny Sorley of Carnegie Lake beginning to try to sort it out as they come to the line, as well as Rosemary Kine from OKC. It will be Rosalina Torsivia crossing in third, with Rosemary Kine from OKC in fourth, then Jenny Sorley from Carnegie Lake in fifth, and Mary Caleta from 612 Endurance in sixth in the women's intermediate singles. What a show from Kaitlyn Gildersleeve, the gold medal for the women's intermediate singles.
That was some great racing, and now she can focus on her next singles race at 12:30, looking forward to the Elite Senior Final.
Great shots of some great competition here. The women's intermediate singles there. We'll have the men's intermediate lightweight singles on the course next, going for the gold. It'll be Gil Dexter from Saratoga in lane 1, Corey Rogers from OKC in lane 2, Jackson Gallagher from OKC in lane 3, James Konopka from Undine in lane 4, Nicolas Sanchez from Miami in lane 5, and Perry Ragland from Minnesota in lane 6. And out early, as we saw him yesterday in the semifinals, James Konopka from Undine in the lead by about a boat length over Nicolas Sanchez from Miami. And then it's over to Corey Rogers from OKC, who's hanging on to third with his teammate Jackson Gallagher in between him and leader James Konopka clinging right there. Then Dexter from Saratoga and Perry Ragland from Minnesota.
Well, this is a great performance from James Konopka. He really has his race set at this point. He had a great start, settling into a good race pace here as he looks out over all of his competitors to his left and to his right. He's working on getting that open water. He looks to release the contact that Nicolas Sanchez has with him, and it looks like he might have done that.
In the lightweight singles yesterday, the men had some fierce races. Konopka of Undine won his semifinal, the first of the two semifinals, in a time of 7:33.09, and Gallagher from OKC had a time of 7:37.62. So very fast numbers here for these rowers. As a matter of fact, between the top six rowers, spacing of less than 10 seconds. So that may shape up for some great competition coming down to the end here.
That's right, they're coming up on the 500 here, really settling into their race. Looking forward to the rest of it, but James Konopka is looking good here. Nice and strong strokes, getting a lot of water, really reaching way back with his oars, executing his race plan.
As I recall, Jenny, his race plan yesterday was get out front and stay there, and he did the whole race. And I imagine that is about the same right now.
I think that's probably what he's thinking. It worked for him the other day.
That's
so
right.
He's looking to make it work for him again today, and so far that is certainly holding true unless Nicolas Sanchez can find another gear as we move up to the 1,000 meters.
Real battle happening between Gallagher in lane 3 and Corey Rogers from OKC in lane 2. They're battling for third right now, and they are really swapping back and forth as they come down the course.
I have a feeling they do this a lot where they row back in Oklahoma City, that this is something that they have experienced before, more than likely. But James Konopka really looking good as he still commands this race so far, but Nicolas Sanchez is not too far behind him.
Well, I was going to say, Sanchez is not being left behind. Konopka is not leaving them behind yet as they pass through 1,000 meters, the halfway point of the race. He's not really walking away from it yet. Those other competitors are sticking right with him.
They really are. There's not a lot of spread front to back, with James Konopka still out in front, and Nicolas Sanchez is looking to challenge him. He really needs to move if he's going to move. And then we have the OKC boats there, not letting Nicolas feel too comfortable in his position either.
Advantage to Jackson Gallagher from OKC, the Oklahoma City boat, in lane 4 for third place right now over his teammate Corey Rogers. Nicolas Sanchez from Miami continuing to not allow James Konopka from Undine to walk too far away as they come down.
Now, if Nicolas is going to challenge for first, he really needs to work on it here, because in the single you can see a lot of movement when those larger boats, but in the single there's only one person. It's really hard to make a huge move late in the race. So you see a lot of times these singles are going to sort themselves out by about the 1,000, and unless it's a lot of contact between them, your chances of changing the lead are slim.
350 meters from the finish is going for the gold in the men's intermediate lightweight singles. James Konopka from Undine, the Undine club from Philadelphia, stroking towards that gold with about 300 meters to go. Meanwhile, Nicolas Sanchez from Miami trying to track him down, while Jackson Gallagher from Oklahoma City is beginning to move up as well and threaten that second place of Nicolas Sanchez. So we'll see how it shakes out down the run. And again, on any given day, it's not a one race for Konopka yet, because one little bobble, catch, a flip, and you're out of the race. So really it takes a lot of concentration after 1,500 meters to stay concentrated, balanced, fight that fatigue, and make that big push for the finish.
You can see Jackson Gallagher looking over a lot at Nicolas Sanchez, trying to gauge if he has enough in the tank to pass Nicolas Sanchez for second. He keeps looking over at his competitor, looking to see what he can do and make his move here to see if he can really eke it out for second, and it looks like he is doing a pretty good job of that.
Jackson Gallagher really picking up the pace as they enter the red buoys in the final 250 meters of the race. Coming down to it, though still out front, James Konopka from Undine, seeing that threat but maintaining his cool, and he continues to sprint towards the gold. But here as they come to the line, it's James Konopka from Undine crossing for the gold in the men's intermediate lightweight singles, closely followed by Jackson Gallagher from Oklahoma City and Nicolas Sanchez from Miami. A big push from Corey Rogers from OKC, trying to hold on for the fourth place finish over Dexter from Saratoga. James Konopka from Undine winning. And here comes Perry Ragland from Minnesota crossing the line in the men's intermediate lightweight single final. Konopka from Undine winning in a time of 7:26.13, which is 7 seconds faster than his showing yesterday in the semifinals. Congratulations to James Konopka from the Undine Boat Club and his gold medal here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships.
That was quite a race by Jackson Gallagher there at the end. He put on such a surge to overtake Nicolas Sanchez. So that was great racing by all of those gentlemen.
This is live streaming coverage on the U.S. Rowing YouTube channel of the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships from Harsha Lake in Bethel, Ohio. I'm Mark Purcell here with Jenny Bean Scubin calling these races, some exciting races here, and we're not even halfway through the day, Jenny. It's great to see these races unfolding the way they are. Some closer than others, but excitement all the same.
Now, when you look at finals, you know that for the most part, unless it's a final-only race, these crews have seen each other before, they're familiar with each other, and they've had to defeat some other crews to get here. So you're seeing the top of the crop in these finals, and you're generally going to see crews just be a lot closer together.
And of course, a lot of race strategies unfolding here on the water as these rowers fight for that national title. We have a couple of straight to final races that we'll be seeing in the next couple of races. The women's intermediate lightweight pairs and the men's intermediate lightweight eights is what we'll be seeing. The women's intermediate lightweight pairs will be first or next down the course. The lineup there is Egan and Talon from New York AC, Stauffer and Merritt from Rockford in lane 3, Lewis and Kasdan from New York AC Composite in lane 4, and Swartstrom and Longawa from Row West Racing Camp in lane 5 in the women's intermediate lightweight pair finals. So these are stroke events with the just two rowers and each rower with just one oar. So one rower with an oar going one side, one rower with an oar going out the other side. Sometimes challenging to keep on track, as we see early on in this race as the boat from New York AC begins to wander slightly towards the buoy line. It's Lewis and Kasdan from New York AC Composite out in the lead in the first 500 here.
That's right, and it appears that we only have 3 boats in the race when there were supposed to be 4, and I hear that the Row West Racing Camp boat arrived too late to the start.
And it is all about timing. We're running on 8-minute centers, and the U.S. rowing referees make sure everything's fair. If you're not to the start in time, you will not be allowed to run the race.
That's right, and you can actually see that boat there. I believe that is the Row West boat there behind, turning into the lane and just looking to kind of follow the race back. Because they arrived late to the start, they were not allowed to enter to the course.
Well, and sometimes that's a case of the rowers having been in a previous event and finding the time to get out of the boat that they were in and to the next boat and make it up to the start in time. Sometimes it's other circumstances that caused a delay. But Swardstrom and Longoa from Row West Racing Camp not allowed to start in this race for the women's intermediate lightweight pairs. Egan and Talon from New York AC, Stauffer and Merritt from Rockford, and Lewis and Kasdan, a New York AC composite, racing in this race. And it is Lewis and Kasdan from New York AC in lane 4 out in the lead.
And that Swardstrom, actually, now that you mention it, Mark, Swardstrom was rowing in the race at 8:40. So it looks like that might have been the delay, is that she just couldn't make it from the race that she rowed at 8:40 to the race at 9:20. So that was some unfortunate timing of the scheduling and of her planning to make it into both races. So it looks like they're just rowing kind of behind the race there.
Still have time to visit the vendor village here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. You can visit the JL Racing Tent for your official U.S. Rowing merchandise. JL, the official partner of the United States Rowing Team. There's also Filippi. The Filippi sponsors the U19 men's national team and are supplying all of their boats in Tokyo for 2020. Filippi boats are the choice of 67% of all boats at the World Championships and Olympics, and in the last 3 years when 13 world records were set, 11 of those were in Filippi boats. Filippi boats are the choice of champions. Learn more, visit eliterowing.com. There's also N&D Regatta Wear for your official event merchandise, Strokeside Designs, Connectadock, and so much more. Visit the vendor village here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships.
We saw some course correction from the New York AC boat of Egan and Talon a little while ago as they moved over trying to get back into their lane, but it is still Lewis and Kasdan of the New York AC composite boat who has a comfortable lead at this point.
So again, we're watching the intermediate lightweight pairs. We'll see the men's intermediate lightweight eights. Only 2 boats in that race, one from New York and the other from Miami, from Belen Jesuit. And then the men's intermediate quads, full field in that race coming up in just about a little less than 15 minutes.
So Lewis and Kasdan still looking strong here in this race. And again, that pair, boy, that is just a tough, tough boat to row well. And when you find someone else that you flow well together in the pair and that can move the pair, that's something really special.
Lewis and Kasdan looking strong. Egan and Talon, their teammates from New York AC, on the far side of the course. Again, the lanes numbered 1 through 7, 1 being the lane closest to the center of the lake and 7 being closest to the beach as it comes down to the finish line.
So Egan and Talon are doing their best to challenge their maybe one of their teammates from the New York AC, as it's a composite boat. So that boat is made up of one rower from New York AC and one rower from somewhere else. But the Egan and Talon boat, the New York AC boat, is looking to move up on Lewis and Kasdan in lane 4 with Stauffer and Merritt from Rockford kind of hanging back but not out of it.
Things continuing to heat up in the competition and to warm up for this championship Sunday. The temperature here in Bethel, Ohio at Harsha Lake started with a very pleasant temperature in the 60s, but now up to 78. However, the humidity is a little lower than it was in the earlier days of the regatta. So perfect racing conditions, flat water, no wind, and open water to race down here at Harsha Lake, the 2,000-meter course. Quite a lot of history at this course, and history being made today in these national championships, too.
You can see that New York AC boat in lane 2 having to make another course correction, which is not something you want to have to do. But again, as we saw before in the men's intermediate pair, you do your best to not let it rattle you.
U.S. rowing referees keeping close track no matter how many boats are on the water, making sure these races are fair as well as the rowers safe. So if you see one of the men or ladies in blue, thank them for their hard work here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. Lewis and Kasdan from New York AC, the composite. You can tell it's a composite because there's a Vesper uni in that boat there. They are continuing to stroke towards the finish for the women's intermediate lightweight pair final.
They came out to a commanding lead early on, and they have held on to it, looking very nice as they come into the final 250 and closing in on the finish. The lead hasn't really changed at all in this race, but these rowers are really in it, and the Rockford boat did not let any of the other boats really walk away.
Coming down to the line, Rockford pulling hard, trying to catch up with that other New York AC boat, but it is Lewis and Kasdan from the New York AC, that composite, crossing the line for the gold medal in the women's intermediate lightweight pair final. Here's big push from Rockford here at the end, but it's still Egan and Talon from New York AC crossing the line second, then Stauffer and Merritt from Rockford. The women's intermediate lightweight pair final. You're watching live streaming of the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships from Harsha Lake in Bethel, Ohio. I'm Mark Frizzell here with Jenny Bean-Scubin as we are calling these races as they come down the track. 38 gold medal events happening today. And here's the next on the water right now, a two-boat race for the gold in the men's intermediate lightweight eights. This is one of the races that goes straight to finals. It's New York AC in lane 3 and Belen Jesuit Crew Composite in lane 4.
A New York AC boat is really coming out to an early lead there. They had a good start off the line, and they are moving well.
New York AC boats always look powerful in these races. I have recalled saying their name many times at championships. So the New York AC, well known. And again, it's not just the individual races that are going here. There are teams and the team cups. Overall points, men's and women's trophies for the national championship. Now, the rules, for the most part, it excludes composites, excludes elite crews, and there are a couple of other criteria as it goes along. At this point in the competition, as I refresh the standings and check, in the overall points trophy, TBC Racing is leading with 166 points to Row America Rise 160, CRI in third at 141. For the women's point trophy, Row West Racing Camp has 90 points to Y Quad Cities 70 points. Saugatuck tied with Y Quad Cities at 70. And in the men's points, TBC Racing with 132, Row America Rye with 129. So different points for golds, silvers, and bronzes. And some of these teams will continue to add to those points with today's championship finals. But here's the men's intermediate lightweight 8 final. The New York Athletic Club in lane 3 and Belen Jesuit Crew Composite in lane 4. So why don't you explain what the lightweights are here in rowing?
Well, lightweights for rowing, you have the heavyweight class and the lightweight class. In the heavyweight class, there is no weigh-in. Your rower can be as big as they feel comfortable being, really.
Or as small.
Or as small, true. But in the lightweight class, that is when the rowers need to weigh in the day of the race. And for women, that cutoff is 130. They can be obviously less than 130. but not over 130. And for the men, it's 160. And when you have crews, each crew member must be that weight or below. There is no boat average.
So it's not like you can have a 300-pound rower in the bow and an 80-pound rower in the stern and everybody else in between. It's not an average weight. It is every single rower has to make weight.
That's right. Every single rower has to make weight.
So in these intermediate lightweight eights, every one of these athletes rowing for the men is 160 pounds or less.
That's right. So these rowers really, the lightweight class, I enjoy the lightweight class. I'm glad that it's there for rowers. They need to have the ability to have a competitive round of racing for folks that may not be, Amazons, very large, tall, broad-shouldered, as you generally think of rowers. So it's really awesome to see the competitive nature of the lightweight group and to have them really rowing well and finding a lot of competition at that level.
So here in the men's intermediate lightweight 8 final, New York Athletic Club and Belen Jesuit Crew Composite coming down to the line, going for the gold. It is New York AC with a full boat length lead right now, coming to the finish. So the national championship for the men's intermediate lightweight 8s will go to New York AC in lane 3, and then Belen Jesuit Crew Composite crosses in lane 4, New York AC with a time of 6:13:27.
That was some good racing by those lightweight crews, congratulating each other in the boat. Well done.
Great championship races here, and we're about to see quite a lineup with the men's intermediate quads next, the women's intermediate doubles after that, and then the women's intermediate eights final will be heading down the track. 6 boats in all these races, racing for the gold, silver, and bronze. The New York AC lightweight 8 really celebrating what's going on there. So in the lineup for the men's intermediate quads final, Indianapolis is in lane 1, Orion in lane 2, Undine in lane 3, Conshohocken in lane 4, OKC High Performance Center in lane 5, and Potomac in lane 6. And they are just underway. And we saw some exciting semifinals in these quads yesterday. I am really excited about seeing how things shake out in that last 500 meters or so of this race, Jenny.
Boy, that we did. There were some tight races yesterday, and we expect some tight racing today, and we can already see it unfold with these crews really kind of bunched together right off the line.
We've seen some photo finishes already today, not necessarily for first, but for the silver. Back in the women's intermediate lightweight doubles, the Y-Quad Cities double beating Row West Racing Camp by just 0.2 of a second for the silver. And there was a photo finish right after in the women's intermediate 4. So we'll see how things shape up here in the men's intermediate quad championship final for these 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships.
So far, it looks like Orion is coming out to a slight lead over Undine, right next to them, with Conshohocken right behind. And Indianapolis had to do a course correction pretty early on. So they are falling back, but still in the race with OKC 8 High Performance Center and Potomac.
Yes, indeed. Undine out early, but being hotly pursued by Orion and Conshohocken and Indianapolis. OKC and Potomac battling in lanes 5 and 6. But out front, it looks like the boat from Orion beginning to make a little bit of a move on the boat from Undine and beginning to walk up a little bit on them as they are heading towards the halfway point.
They really are. You know, early on they had that Orion had a slight edge over Undine, and now it's Undine having a slight edge over Orion. So these crews are really trading it back and forth. This is quite exciting to watch. And then Conshohocken, you really can't put them out yet. they still have a contact overlap with Orion and Undine there in first and second.
Orion still beginning to almost take over the lead in this championship final. They're really battling, but still it's Undine with just a hair advantage. As you said, Conshohocken beginning to move too, and they are through the halfway point. And that's what we've really seen in some of the semifinals, and I'm sure we'll see all day today, is in the second half of the race, some of these boats really making up a lot of water and exerting themselves in the second half.
And you can really see that in the quad. Those quads are moving very fast, and it's easy for maybe one crew to slump just slightly and the other crew to jump out ahead quickly because these crews are moving so fast down the line. It looks like really Undine and Orion are battling it out. Now hopefully everybody can keep their lines. They've done a pretty good job so far. Steering a quad in a sprint race is certainly one thing. It's not an easy thing to do necessarily, but it's a lot easier to do not having to look behind you perhaps to see what's in front of the boat as you're moving, because you can just look at those lines and estimate where you need to go and how your boat is moving as you look behind you. So you can keep the focus pretty much in the boat and behind the boat. You don't have to turn your head too much like crews do in head racing situations. So these crews are keeping nice straight lines, but it is still Orion and Undine really trading back and forth for the lead.
Yeah, I was going to say Orion continuing to move forward just an inch at a time, and that's all it takes as you have 2,000 meters, a mile and almost a quarter to race and make up that inch at a time and help yourself move forward and past your opponent. And Orion's been doing that as Undine has been fighting to hold on to that first place, and they are still fighting. This is going to be close if they stick this close together at the end, but we'll see if either crew has a little trick up their sleeve or a little extra power, a little overdrive that they can apply to their oars and surge ahead of the others. But out front, Orion and Undine battling for the men's intermediate quad final in the national championship.
They really need to take it up here. It looks like Undine has taken the rating up. Orion needs to answer.
And here comes Orion as they enter the red buoys coming across the beach right now, and they are bow ball to bow ball. It's Undine and Orion dueling and dogfighting for the gold in the men's intermediate quads. Coming down to the line, 70 meters from the finish. They're coming down to the finish line. Who will have their bow ball in front and get that gold medal? Undine with an advantage. Orion fighting forward. Undine with their oars in the water, and it's hard to call who was in front there. We'll wait and see what the photo finish is. In the meantime, it's Conshohocken crossing for the bronze, and a battle going on between OKC and Potomac, and they are bow ball to bow ball crossing the line as well. We'll have to see who ends up the winner in that battle. And Indianapolis now crossing the line in the men's intermediate quad final. And as we look, 1/100th of a second, Undine wins the gold over Orion. 6:09.15 for Undine, 6:09.16 for Orion in the men's intermediate quad final. A photo finish for sure. Conshohocken, 6:19.78 with a time. And we'll see how it came out between OKC and Potomac. We'll let them, again, all these times are unofficial. 1/10 of a second, OKC over Potomac for fourth place. What a finish there, and so exciting not knowing which of those boats was coming across first.
Boy, they really battled it out the whole way down the course. They were at each other's throats the entire way. It was so great to see, and both crews really executed well.
The 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. Gold medal excitement here on the U.S. Rowing YouTube channel. I'm Mark Purcell here with Jenny Bean Scubin calling these exciting races looking forward to the races that will continue up until the lunch break about 11, and then this afternoon the schedule continues with the competition resuming after the lunch break. If I can get my page turned here, the competition resuming after the lunch break at 12:30 with the women's and men's elite senior singles final, the first leg of the U.S. Lotman Challenge. Oh, almost breathless from that intermediate quad final that just happened, but we're on to the women's intermediate doubles. It's Brija and Cassell from OKC in lane 1, Leon and Meade from the U19 women's selection camp in lane 2, Edwards and Kemna from the under-18 girls high performance team composite in lane 3, Darvin and Ford from Orion in lane 4, Davidson and Charnashu from the under-18 girls high performance team in lane 5, and Dorcivia and DeMarco from Orion in lane 6. And you may recognize some of those names as singles that have rode already in these national championships. And early in the race for the women's intermediate doubles, it's Leon and Meade from the U19 women's selection camp being chased by Edwards and Kemna from the under-18 girls high performance team. But all these boats within a boat length of each other right now.
That's right, we really don't have any separation this early on. You can see the lane 1 boat in blue there on the right of your screen is really still in the mix, along with the lane 6 boat all the way over to the left, Torcivia and DeMarco of Orion. There is not much separation between the first and the last place cruise so far, but we are early on as these rowers settle into their race pace after their start. And usually rowers off the start, they're going to have a couple of high strokes, some short strokes as they get their boat moving, and they take some high strokes depending on however their coach decides how many strokes they need to take of higher rating off the start in order to get the boat up and going, and then they will settle into what the crews consider to be their race pace, a pace they can maintain over the remaining, let's say, 1,800 to 1,700 meters, depending on how many high strokes they take off the start.
Darvin and Ford from Orion in lane 4, not to be left behind, chasing down the Edwards and Kemna team from the under-18 girls HP team, who are right there with the U19 women's selection camp in lane 2 of Leon and Meade. Those three boats all out in front, about a half a boat length separating the first through third. And as you said, Jenny, all these boats still in close proximity.
There's still a lot of contact here, but we do have the lead there in those middle lanes, and you can see the women glancing over at each other, looking to see where their competitors are and kind of sizing up what they need to do at this point in the race in order to secure their spot on the podium.
Davidson and Charnashu from the under-18 girls HP team, they're hanging right there in fourth, fighting for fourth with Brija and Cassell from OKC over in lane 1. So not to be left out, all 6 boats very much still within striking distance of each other as they approach the halfway point.
Yeah, they're starting to separate a little bit between the top 3 and then the next 3. So we have 1 and 2 really answering each other. Each one maybe takes a surge and the other one answers between that lane 3 boat of Edwards and Kemna and Darvin and Ford of Orion in lane 4. So they are really battling it out. It looks like maybe Darvin and Ford just made a move on Edwards and Kemna, which I'm sure Edwards and Kemna will be looking to answer pretty soon here. And then you also have that U19 women's selection camp of Leon and Meade right there in the mix.
US Rowing would like to thank our sponsors and partners, Concept 2, Bucket List Events, the National Rowing Federation, Captain U, JL Racing, MPOCR, Visit Sarasota, Regatta Central, Filippi, EMC, Hudson, Vespoli, Dreher, Croker, NK, Thorne, and United. Thank you for being a sponsor and partner with US Rowing as we celebrate the sport of rowing here at the 2019 US Rowing National Championships.
It's really great to have so many sponsors for rowing. Rowing as a sport has been around for a very long time, Mark, especially in the United States. It is one of the first collegiate competitions between two colleges. It was a rowing event.
Amazing to see the long and storied history and how forgotten it was for a while, but how much it's growing now because the advancements in rowing clubs. There's so many rowing clubs we're looking at here who've been around since 2013 or 2015, and the number of growing rowing clubs has really been growing in the United States here in the last 5 to 10 years. And great to see this sport that teaches teamwork and dedication and determination. It's just great to see it beginning to flourish and how all these young athletes are benefiting from the sport.
It really is, and it's a lifetime sport, Mark. It's something that I still compete in today. It's a great thing to do as a young person and also as an adult because it's that low impact that you have on the joints. So it's something that really can maintain you throughout your entire life.
Using every major muscle group. It's just an amazing sport to even just leisurely row out here at Harsha Lake.
That's right. It looks like we have a nice lead now by the Orion crew. Darvin and Ford are looking a little bit more comfortable than they were earlier on in the race for sure, as Edwards and Kemna have not been able to answer their surge here quite yet, and they're running out of water as we close in on the finish line.
250 meters from the finish, and the gold medal for the women's intermediate doubles here at the National Championships. Darvin and Ford from Orion leading, with Edwards and Kemna from the under-18 girls HP team. Looking to hold on to second. And here they come to the line. Edwards and Kemna glancing over the shoulder to see where the finish is, where their competition is, and as they cross the line, getting the gold, Darvin and Ford from Orion.
They are looking strong there, and then in second, the finish of Edwards and Kemna coming across in second place for the silver medal, followed by Davidson and Charnishu, U18 Girls High Performance Camp. We have the rest of the teams crossing the line here in the women's intermediate doubles final.
Orion's Darvin and Ford with a time of 7:29.27. Edwards and Kemna from the U18 girls HP team 7:34.04. Gold for Orion with Darvin and Ford in the women's intermediate double final. Back to the start in the big boats. It's the eights competing in this next championship final. The women's intermediate eights on the water and roaring down the course already. Ready, set, row in lane one. The under-18 girls high performance team B boat in lane two. That team's A boat in lane three. The under-19 women's selection camp in lane four. Row West Racing Camp in lane five, and TBC Racing in lane six. And all of these programs have been doing a fantastic job in the races all day today already, and we're not even halfway through. So it'll be interesting to see how these big boats respond to that going for the gold. Hard to call for a leader right now, though, Jenny.
That's right. You can give, at first I thought the lane 2 U18 Girls High Performance B boat had a slight edge, maybe right off the start. But now it appears perhaps the U19 Women's Selection Camp in lane 4 in that blue boat might be edging them out right now. But there's a lot of contact between those boats. Certainly the first and second place crews are trying to define themselves. Those Lane 2 and Lane 4, the U18 Girls High Performance Composite B, along with the U19 Women's Selection Camp in Lane 4. But the rest of the field is still right with this race.
Lanes 3 and 4 with the fast qualifiers out of the semifinals. Lane 4 boat from the Under-19 Women's Selection Camp. They had a fast time of 6:36.58 yesterday, so we'll see if they can maintain or beat that time today, as we're seeing all those athletes on the water giving it their all and going for the gold here at these national championships.
You know, it appears the U18 Girls High Performance Composite team in Lane 3 is hanging back a bit, and perhaps that is just how they choose to row their race. But at this point, it really is that U19 Women's Selection Camp in Lane 4, the blue boat there in the middle, that is really walking away with it for now. But there is still some overlap with that U18 Girls Composite B boat in Lane 2. The rest of the pack really hanging back. It's really anyone's call between U18 Girls High Performance Composite in Lane 3, and then Row West Racing Camp in Lane 5 and TBC Racing in Lane 6. The Ready Set Row in Lane 1, they are falling back off of the pack just a bit.
Sliding back slightly indeed. Row West Racing Camp and TBC Racing in lanes 5 and 6. They are now ahead of the Lane 3 boat of the Under-18 Girls High Performance team. But remember, a lot of these boats have a big surge in the second half of the race, and they are just passing that 1,000-meter halfway point in the race. So now coming down, it really does look like a big push from the B boat from the Under-18 Girls HP team in second, and beginning to move up slightly on that U19 Selection Camp boat that's had the lead for most of the race so far. But I really don't think we can count out that Row West Racing Camp and TBC boats in lanes 5 and 6.
No, they certainly are in the fight, if not for second, but definitely for third. But the U18 Girls Composite team in Lane 3, they really need to show their stuff here if they want to come out and make a podium finish.
750 meters to go to the gold in the women's intermediate eights. Really pulling away from the crowd, the Under-19 Women's Selection Camp boat in Lane 4, now a boat length lead. They're beginning to extend that lead. A fight for second right now belonging to the Under-18 Girls High Performance Team Composite B boat, but their A boat right beside them in Lane 3 has begun to move forward slightly, as has the TBC Racing boat in Lane 6. They are moving up, and I would give them third right now. So it's the Under-19 Women's Selection Camp in first, the Under-18 Girls HP B boat in second right now, and third, a battle between the Under-18 Girls HP A boat and TBC.
TBC really seems to be making a move. They're taking up their rating. They are looking to charge here in the third 500 as they move into the final 500 now, and hoping to challenge at least for second here. TBC is really pouring on the gas.
54 athletes in 6 boats working hard, trying to get the gold at the 2019 USRowing National Championships in the Women's Intermediate 8. Women's U19 Selection Camp boat in the lead, holding on while the remaining boats trying to surge and catch up. Coming up to the beach and the final 250 meters.
The U19 Women's Selection Camp boat is really moving well together as they lean out over their gunnels and towards their riggers. And you can see those coxswains looking over at each other, trying to gauge what their crews have left in the tank and what they can challenge at this point in the race, right here at the finish.
Will TBC have enough energy to come up and try to capture the silver? Here they come down to the line for the women's intermediate eights. It is the U19 women's selection boat in the lead right now. A big surge coming up from TBC. TBC trying to outdo the U18 GHP team boats. And here they come to the line. Who will it be for the silver? It looks like the B boat from U8. The under-18 girls high-performance team will get the silver. TBC sneaking in for the bronze, beating out the under-18 GHP team A boat. In the meantime, Row West Racing Camp crossing the line in the women's intermediate 8 and ready, set, row. But what a race, a big race for TBC coming up from the back. But the under-18 girls high-performance team composite B boat, a fine job to capture the silver there. But a congratulations and gold medal to the U19 women's selection camp boat and their national championship in the women's intermediate 8, winning time 6:34.27.
That was an exciting race for third. You can see how the TBC Racing boat just edged out that U18 girls high performance team composite boat in less than a second. So that was some exciting racing for third, but an awesome job by the U19 women's selection camp boat for really commanding that race.
Back to the start for the men's intermediate 4s. Lane 1, the Cincinnati Juniors. Lane 2, the California Berkeley Development Camp. Lane 3, New York AC. And Lane 4, the USRowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp. Lane 5, Mendota. And in Lane 6, the TBC Racing B boat that qualified for the men's intermediate 4. They're still in the starting gates, 2,000 meters from the finish line here at Harsha Lake. I'm Mark Purcell with Jenny Bean Scubin here with the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. 38 gold medal races today will be determined. We've been having some incredible racing and finishes this morning already, and we're just barely halfway to the end of the day. The men's intermediate 4s underway, and here they come, clearing the cove down at the start.
That's right. They are off, and getting into a start for boats, especially for the longer boats, for the 4s and for the 8s, it's not all that easy sometimes, but these are really experienced crews in backing their boats in to the starting dock and then lining up and getting ready to go. And we had a really quick start here right off the line by TBC Racing B boat that you'll see on the far left. They got out jumped really off to an early lead with their really fast start, but the other boats are catching up to them, and they have really reeled them in.
And it looks like a big start for the Berkeley Development Camp boat in Lane 2, now with about a seat advantage over the field as they move forward, but the Cincinnati Juniors in Lane 1 sticking right with them. And it's quite a sight to see these boats that close together, even this early in the race. And it looks like Mendota in Lane 5 off the pace slightly among the 6 boats here, but the boats, especially on the far side of the field from the shore, and lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4, are really flying out there. And that California Berkeley Development Camp boat in Lane 2 out in front, but Cincinnati going right with them.
Boy, they are. Cincinnati is right with them, along with the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp there in Lane 4. They are all right close together, and this is just a really exciting race, along with New York AC is still in the mix as well. But it goes to show you, Mark, with that TBC Racing boat all the way in Lane 6, they really jumped out early. They had a high, fast start, but then they lost it somewhere right off of the start, and so their coach has to wonder kind of what happened between the start and then settling for them.
These 4s with the coxswains, mainly bow-seated coxswains, looking at the race course, sizing up the competition, communicating with their rowers. California Berkeley Development Camp in the lead, Cincinnati Juniors close behind, the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat right there with them. Matter of fact, lanes 1 through 4, all within a half a boat length of each other, approaching the halfway point. And actually, no boat out of this race by any means yet.
Not at all.
The
This is
Mendota
close.
boat about a boat length behind, but otherwise very, very even. A little bit of an advantage now for the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat, having stuck their bow out in front. But Cincinnati, the Berkeley Development Camp, the New York AC boat, all right there with them.
Boy, they are. They're going stroke for stroke. And this is an exciting race to watch. And for the coxswains as well, those, as you were mentioning, the coxswains there sitting low in the bow, which you see in 4s, not as often in 8s, but you see it, really that's kind of, at first it was the exception, and now it's become the rule to have those bow-coxed boats in 4s. So the coxswain kind of slides all the way down into the bow with their head peeking up. You can see them right behind their bow seats there. And they peek out over and try to gauge where their competitors are and encourage their crews to take a 10 or to make their move. And it looks like the crews are just answering each other, each one making a surge, and then the rest moving right with them.
1,250 meters in, 750 to go for the gold, and this men's intermediate 4 final is still a race with boats within just about a half a boat length of each other. Cincinnati now exerting themselves and slightly in the lead, with the New York AC boat in second and the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat in third. It looks like the Berkeley Development Camp boat has slacked off, and now they have dropped back about a boat length. In the meantime, the boat from Mendota and TBC Racing's in lane 5 and 6 are side by side, but about a boat length behind the leaders. But now it looks like a race between New York AC and the Cincinnati Juniors shaping up right now.
That's right. They have, looks like New York AC, Cincinnati Juniors, and the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's Performance Camp made a move that Berkeley couldn't answer. And so here we have the juniors in lane 1 over on the far right of the screen, and New York AC really battling it out. New York AC has an advantage right now, maybe of a seat or 2 over Cincinnati Juniors. Let's see if Cincinnati Juniors can answer their move.
So close together for so much of the race, and then when the moves begin, you can see who may have the energy and who may not. In the meantime, Mendota in lane 5 has begun to pull away from the TBC Racing boat in lane 6. But here comes the New York AC boat and the Cincinnati Juniors boat battling it out for the gold. But the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp trying to stick with them, and Berkeley trying to catch up and make up the lost ground that they had on the way. But here they come to the line. New York AC has begun to move forward even more and is extending their lead. The Cincinnati Juniors trying to keep up with them. Here comes the U.S. Rowing Junior Men's HP Camp boat too. We'll have to see how they line up as they cross the finish line. But here in the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships in the Men's Intermediate 4 Championship Final, New York AC out in front. A big Junior Men's High Performance Camp U.S. Rowing boat surge as they're trying to come to the line. And as they do, it is New York AC crossing for the gold. The Cincinnati Juniors will get silver, and that U.S. Rowing Junior Men's High Performance Camp boat for the bronze. Then crossing in a race for fourth, it's between Mendota and the Berkeley Development Camp boat, followed by TBC Racing in the Men's Intermediate 4. New York AC with a win of 6:30.97, almost 2 seconds faster than the Cincinnati Juniors boat that captured the silver. But what a row for New York AC and the rest of those rowers in the Men's Intermediate 4. What an exciting race all the way down. And then when the rubber hit the road there in that second half, Jenny, it really began to develop into a heck of a race.
That's right. The New York AC really rode their race well. They didn't let all of the other crews rattle them too much, and they just kind of chipped away at it. They chipped and they chipped and they chipped away, really exerting themselves, not by making huge moves, but just by making continuous little moves and staying strong throughout the race. And it was something that Cincinnati Juniors couldn't quite answer. And then you had the US Rowing Junior Men's camp boat that was trying to make that late surge, but they just ran out of room.
Back to sculling for the women's intermediate lightweight quad here at the National Championships. Direct to finals race. 3 boats in the race here. It's Potomac in lane 2, Y Quad Cities in lane 3, and Detroit in lane 4. It'll be interesting to see how these intermediate lightweight quads work out for the women. Again, the weight averages is not an average weight in a boat. Each rower in the boat has to meet the minimum weight, to the maximum weight to be a lightweight rower. And for the women here in this national championship competition, that mark is 130 pounds.
So these lightweight rowers tend to be a little bit more of an average height, less so than you see of the heavyweight rowers, who are on the whole kind of your taller people. You want to get that reach, and that's a benefit in rowing. But it's great to see this competition for lightweight rowers, and it looks like it's shaping up to be a good race here in the quads, with probably an early lead, I would say, from Potomac, followed by Y Quad Cities, and then bringing up in the rear of the boat of the race so far is Detroit.
Well, we talk about the heavyweights being taller athletes, but really what I love about the sport of rowing is that anyone can do it. It doesn't matter your height or your weight. Anyone can get in a boat and row and race, and it's not like you in basketball have to be a 7-foot tall center. It's not as in football where you have to be a 400-pound defensive lineman. Rowing really is a sport that everyone can participate in, and that's just another of the wonderful aspects of rowing.
That's right, and it's something, again, like we were talking about before, it's something that can last you your entire life. There's very competitive racing at the masters level. Even if you're not into racing, there's a lot of just kind of casual rowing that happens across the country for folks of all ages, of all sizes and shapes, and of all abilities as well. There's a lot of improvements now in adaptive rowing. It's really taken hold. Folks that may have different abilities physically and mentally, and it's great to see the inclusion of all people here in the rowing community.
Oh, and there's nothing like mucking about in a boat, and especially one that you can, with a single stroke, propel across the water at a high speed, even if you are not competing.
That's right, as long as you don't flip, Mark.
Well, exactly. But wonderful sport, rowing. The ability to have be very inclusive for anyone who wants to row. And if you haven't tried rowing, I would highly recommend try to find a Learn to Row program near you. We're watching the women's intermediate lightweight quad final unwind. Potomac out to a lead of about a boat length and a half of open water over Y Quad Cities, and then back a few boat lengths to the boat from Detroit here in the women's intermediate lightweight quads. Past the halfway point of the race right now.
The Potomac boat is really moving well here, moving well together. They have a nice, easy pace. They're really not kind of flying too high at this point in the race, so they look comfortable in their lead.
Catch some of the nation's top athletes going head-to-head in the women's and men's elite senior singles sculls coming up just past the lunch break. A new format for the U.S. Lotman Challenge races, the USRowing National Championships, one of 3 qualifying events this year, as the winners of the elite senior singles will proceed to leg 2. We had some exciting races yesterday, and I look forward to those races today as well, when those elite senior singles come out and hit the water little afternoon.
The Potomac boat is still looking strong here. They really, at this point, it's theirs to lose. with probably 2 boat lengths of open water now. Um, they have some decent catches. They have a couple of different angles there of their oars at the catch, but they are moving together and they're propelling that boat forward.
As we have this overhead look, we're watching the scullers. You're looking for the oars going into the water, the catch, they call it. Making sure they're all entering at the same time. And then as they pop out of the water, looking for that smooth recovery as you're going back to the catch, you pop them out of the water, feather them, and move them back to the catch position. You want that to be smooth to keep all the power you're applying to those oars, that power moving the boat forward.
That's right. Rowing is really a unique sport in that I think it's the only sport where the athletes cross the finish line backwards. So they are facing the start. They're not facing the finish as they cross. And really, it's all about moving that boat forward. And then on the recovery, as you mentioned, as they're going back to take another stroke, the last thing you want to do is check that forward momentum of your boat. So the rowers are really looking to move together as they return back to take another stroke. And it looks like the Potomac boat is doing a good job of that.
Yeah, you don't want to rush the recovery because all that power you put on the oars to move the boat forward will be counteracted as you throw your weight backward. So you have to be very careful. Yeah, the only sport that you can win going backwards and sitting down at the finish line. Or unless you're in unless you're in a race car spinning out at the finish.
That's right, that's right.
But here to the line in the women's intermediate lightweight quads, Potomac with a fine showing, grabbing the gold here at the National Championship. It's Y Quad Cities crossing the line second. And the boat from Detroit will be third in the National Championship race for the women's intermediate lightweight quads. Again, U.S. Rowing would like to thank our sponsors and partners, including EMC, United, Thorn, Regatta Central, NK, Empacher, Croker, Captain U, Dreher, Vespoy, Bucket List Events, Hudson, Philippine, Visit Sarasota, JL Racing, the National Rowing Federation, and Concept 2. Thank you to these U.S. Rowing sponsors and partners, helping spread this great sport that Jenny and I have been talking about, and spreading the goodwill and the good news about this sport. Another lightweight race, this time for the men. The men's intermediate lightweight doubles up next with Carvias and Malbuff from Detroit in lane 1, Risco and Ascoli from Undine in lane 2, Gallagher and Park from Oklahoma City in lane 3, West and DeWolf from Maritime in lane 4, Tuca and Walker from New York AC in lane 5, and Grieshaber and Wust from Undine in lane 6. The men's intermediate lightweight double. Again, each of the rowers in these boats has to weigh in, and for the men at 160 pounds or less. And there was a line down at the weigh-in tent when I arrived here this morning, Jenny. You could see the young rowers looking to get weighed in and make weight for these national championship races.
That's right, and usually, I mean, for lightweights, they have a pretty good handle on that. They know where they're going to weigh in, and it's not a problem, or at least you hope it's not a problem here on race day for these rowers to make weight. I think we saw a good performance from Gallagher already today. I believe that he was in the men's intermediate lightweight single as well as in the men's intermediate lightweight quad. So this is his third race already, and it's only 10:15.
Amazing athletes, these rowers. You're talking about the U.S. Lotman Challenge races, covering 3 different race distances over the course of 2019. Challenge to identify America's premier scullers and award champions in the culminating race in Philadelphia. These national championship races, the first step for the 2019 U.S. Lotman Challenge. And the Lotman Challenge offers the distinction of being the only race offering a substantial cash prize to the top scoring male and female rowers, continuing to both attract and support America's top rowers, as we've already seen some of that here in the competition at the national championships. We're going to have some exciting competition to support U.S. scullers as they gear up for Tokyo 2020 here in 2019. Those men's and singles elite senior singles races coming up in just a bit will be the first leg at the U.S. Lotman Challenge and a chance at that cash prize coming up a bit later. Here in the men's intermediate lightweight doubles, it's West and DeWolf from Maritime out to an early lead, being challenged by Gallagher and Park from Oklahoma City.
Boy, there they are neck and neck. And Gallagher has to be exhausted by this third race, but he's looking strong here.
Again, there's Caravias and Malbuth from Detroit in lane 1, Risco and Ascoli from Undine in lane 2. They're in hot pursuit of the leaders right now. Tucha and Walker from New York AC out in lane 5, and Grieshaber and Wust from Undine in lane 6. The Maritime and Oklahoma City boats dueling for first, along with the Detroit boat of Caravias and Malbuth in lane 1. Meantime, the battle for fourth right now between Undine's Risco and Ascoli and Tucha and Walker of New York AC, with Grieshaber and Wust from Undine sticking to the stern of that battle for fourth.
It looks like Maritime is trying to pull ahead, but the OKC High Performance team in lane 3 is really not letting them get out at all. They are just trading it back and forth here as we move in through the middle of the race. They've all settled into their race paces. It looks like Gallagher and Park may be taking it up a little bit here in the middle, trying to get an advantage. But West and DeWolf of Maritime are just not letting them go.
And lurking in lane 1, Caravias and Malbuth from Detroit. They are just a boat length behind those two leaders and might be able to take advantage of all that energy those dueling pairs are doing out front.
It's possible, but with the doubles here, they have some open water as we move to the later part of the race, so they're really running out of room, because that these crews are elite crews. They really have trained a lot, and they know their bodies, they know their race pace, they know their race plan. So I don't see them making a huge challenge really for first, perhaps for second, if one of these crews really kind of fades towards the end.
Well, outside of the two leading boats, the other four boats in the race are beginning to even up. That boat from Detroit had been firmly holding on to third place, but now the other boats have begun to inch up as well as the second half of the race unfolds.
Well, they really have. We still have a slight advantage for Maritime, it appears, but with OKC just right there with them, maybe a seat. And you can see those rowers really checking each other out, looking over at each other. Maritime is looking to take advantage here, and OKC is not letting him move away.
They're matching each other stroke for stroke as I watch right here. They were almost in sync for about 10 strokes, still are. So it's all about the power going into those strokes.
That's right. And for lightweights, you really have to be technically very good, and especially in the lightweight realm, because you have that weight cap. A lot of the power is pretty evenly matched for lightweights, and so you need to get it with your endurance, you need to get it with your stroke rating, you need to find your advantage.
Coming down to the line, the final Couple hundred meters of the men's intermediate lightweight double. West and DeWolf of Maritime, Gallagher and Park of OKC battling in the front. You could see, just as I was saying, they were in sync. You could see the boat from Maritime begin to look like they were moving slower because the OKC boat picked up their stroke rate, and now OKC has the advantage in this race.
They do. They really kind of surged ahead with their stroke rating, and you have to decide, is it to your advantage to take your rating up and possibly exhaust yourself, and maybe it isn't an advantage, but for OKC it really worked out.
Here they come to the line. Gallagher and Park from Oklahoma City High Performance Center in the men's intermediate lightweight double. It is OKC with the win and the gold. Weston DeWolf of Maritime crossing in second for the silver. Here comes a battle for the bronze, though. Oh, a big pull from Risco and Ascoli from Undine. They may have beat out the Detroit boat of Caravillas and Malbuth. A lot of room made up there by the Undine boat. Then it was Tuca and Walker of New York AC and Grieshaber and Wuss from Undine crossing the line. But Risco and Ascoli from Undine did pull hard, and by just 11 hundredths of a second will beat the boat from Detroit for the bronze here in the men's intermediate lightweight double championship final.
Boy, that was some good racing by Gallagher and Park at OKC. They really saw their advantage there at the end, and they took it. And you have to really give it to Jackson Gallagher for his third race already this morning.
And nicely played. Testament to the conditioning that these rowers have to be able to have raced already. Of course, you know, it could be he had a bit of an advantage with the blood pumping, with already having had the blood circulation going, to have that muscle to be able to pull out and win the gold. The 2019 USRowing National Championships from Harsha Lake at East Fork State Park outside of Bethel, Ohio. I'm Mark Purcell with Jenny Bean Scubin. The women's intermediate lightweight 4. Next up on the roster, it's TBC Racing in lane 2, Potomac in lane 3, Ready Set Row in lane 4, and Row West Racing Camp in lane 5, a race that went straight to finals for these intermediate lightweight 4s. Going above through the first quarter of the race, the first 500. It's Potomac with an early lead, but just the slightest as they're battling with the boat from Row West Racing Camp. Racing Camp, Row West is really moving up, though. In between them, Ready Set Row about a boat length back, with TBC Racing about a boat length off the pace.
It looks like Row West Racing Camp is really moving here, trying to take a seat from Potomac, but Potomac is not letting it go very easily. Appears to me that Row West Racing Camp might be a little higher, have a slightly higher stroke rating at this point in the race, which is pretty early on. We're getting into kind of the second 500. We're approaching the second 500 already. So Potomac is looking nice and smooth, really moving their boat well. But these crews are pretty evenly matched there, with Ready Set Row kind of falling back a little bit and hoping to stay into contact with those first two crews.
So the advantages and disadvantages to only having 4 boats in a race. What do you think, Jenny? I mean, you know, sometimes you don't have all the competition, so yeah, you know, you're not getting pushed as much.
I see it as just a straight up disadvantage. I like to see a lot of boats across. There's that adrenaline side of it. There's the sound and the excitement of having all of those boats line up together. That's just such a great feeling. And you can hear the other coxswains, and you can hear them commanding their crews, but you really have to focus in on your crew. So I don't find it distracting so much as just really awesome to have lots of crews line up across each other. And I've been racing, you know, my collegiate career was up in the Northeast where you do a lot of dual racing. So in high school, I had a lot of these types of situations where you have a lot of crews line up together. We went to a lot of regattas, and but then to switch over to a dual racing situation where it's mostly just 2, sometimes 3 crews, it was a really different feel. So, you know, I've experienced both, but I really enjoy these larger races with lots of crews lining up together.
Potomac continuing to lead Row West Racing Camp at the women's intermediate lightweight fours. Ready, Set, Row in 3rd place and TBC in 4th in this four-boat race as they continue down the course and towards the finish line on the beach here at Harsha Lake. Potomac continuing to extend their lead. They were racing fairly close together with Row West, but then Potomac made a move and just kept on moving forward. Now they have almost a length over the Row West Racing Camp boat. Cranberry Marketing Committee pleased to be teaming with USRowing to provide athletes with access to America's original superfruit. You can visit the USRowing membership tent for unlimited free samples. The Cranberry Marketing Committee pleased to be teaming with USRowing. Cranberries, America's original superfruit, and just like rowers, they float. Potomac still ahead in the race here for the women's intermediate lightweight 4 gold at the national championships.
They really have a nice lead here, but they can't get too comfortable. It's like TBC is trying to challenge.
Looking in the Potomac boat here. Beautiful view from our drone. You can see the coxswain continuing to talk to the rowers, encouraging them in this final stretch of the race. 250 away from the finish line in the gold. In the background, I see the Row West Racing Camp boat pick up the speed. The pace of their oars beginning to increase as they come into the final stretch of this 2,000-meter race.
Really, Potomac is moving well here. They are taking their rating up at the final, really looking to sit up there as you go close to the finish, and that's probably what their coxswain is talking to them about, is to really sit up, move well together, get those blades in the water, looking to fend off any sort of challenges, which I think they've done pretty well.
The women's intermediate lightweight 4 national championship final belongs to Potomac. The gold medal going to Potomac. It's Row West Racing Camp in 2nd, with Ready, Set, Row in 3rd, and TBC Racing in 4th for the women's intermediate lightweight 4s. What an effort from Potomac, racing with Row West early on and going side by side, but then really beginning to assert themselves and pull away.
That was a great performance by Potomac. They must be feeling wonderful at this point. There's the coxswain holding up the sandbag. Show the official. Make sure everything is on the up and up.
So the sandbag, much like the handicap in horse racing, made to make sure the boats weigh the same, correct?
Well, the sandbag is actually not, it can be about the boats, but it can also be about the coxswain. So it depends on the weight of the coxswains. The coxswains have to weigh in as well. And if you have an especially light coxswain, because you don't have a person who's rowing the boat, so the coxswain has their own weight, and they're considered, obviously they're an integral part of the team, but really physically they're not propelling the boat forward. So you have an amount of weight that the coxswain has to have in order to make sure that it's fair, because if a crew decides to find, you know, some extremely light coxswain, then that really kind of puts the other crews at a disadvantage.
not always the coxswain's weight you're looking for. You're looking for a coxswain that has the attitude that you need and the understanding that you need as well.
Exactly.
The men's intermediate lightweight pairs on the water right now. 7 in this race. Lane 1, Garcia Chacon and Mullins from Belen Jesuit. Lane 2, Brennan and Wenk from Cincinnati. Lane 3, Sarah Ballas and Rudolph from Central Ohio. Lane 4, Patrick and Feeney from New York AC. Lane 5, Pigeon and Shahutsky from Detroit. In Lane 6, Finley and Savaras from New York AC. And in Lane 7, Hutchinson and Napoliello from Sarasota. And as we look, I've seen some lane changes, so I'm going to call this the best I can. I do believe it's Finley and Savaras from New York AC who are in the lead right now. But as we've seen in these pairs, navigation sometimes just as much of a challenge, and many of the boats are riding right down the buoy lanes right out of the start.
Well, they are, and here's especially as you come up on that pinch point with the boat ramp right there. It can be a challenge for the crews to really navigate appropriately, and you can see them kind of bouncing back and forth, some of them. Steering a pair and rowing a pair, as I've said before, really not that easy to do. So hats off to these gentlemen in the lightweight pair, but Finley and Savaras of New York AC really pulled away right off the start, and they're rowing a great race.
Garcia, Chacon, and Mullins for Belen Jesuit in second right now. Third is a fight going on between, I believe, the boat from Cincinnati and the one from Detroit from last we saw. But out front, that New York AC boat, Finley and Savaras really looking strong. But again, we're trying to make sure we're seeing which boats are which. It's hard to see any bow numbers from the angle that we have, and we're basically counting the lanes. Again, the lanes numbered 1 through 7 from the furthest away from shore to the closest to shore. That's 1 through 7. So 1 is towards the center of the lake, and 7 is closest to the shore. The men's intermediate lightweight pairs on the water and racing for the gold.
You can see some swimmers there at the lake. This is really a great place to hang out and bring your family. So it's nice to see some folks enjoying the water, not just in boats, but also just kind of playing around.
Finley and Savaras from New York AC in the lead in the intermediate lightweight pairs. A challenge beginning to show up from Garcia Chacon Mullins of the Belen Jesuit crew. Meanwhile, the boat from Cincinnati in third. And then we have 2 boats in lane 3. But I believe it might be the Central Ohio. That might be the other New York AC boat that's in fourth right now. Sarah Ballas and Patrick and Feeney from New York AC. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Hutchinson and Napoliello from Sarasota in fifth.
Right. So you're right, Mark. We have a couple of boats that are maybe switching lanes, which makes it hard to tell who is who at this point. I'm not sure why these pairs are having such trouble navigating. Perhaps maybe there might have been a crosswind that picked up there in the middle part of the lake. It doesn't look like it from the water. The water is still looking quite smooth. So I'm really not sure how the boats have developed magnets there in the middle as they're trying to pull together, and the officials are doing their best to keep the rowers safe and rowing down the course.
I believe this may have been another straight to final race, and as a result, this might be the first time that these boats are getting on the water. So outside of practice, they may have not had a chance to compete. So that might be they haven't had a chance to, in the national championships here, fine-tune their partnering.
All right, that might be a factor. It looks like the Belen Jesuit crew is moving up and making a challenge for first place from that New York AC boat. So we'll see how it plays out as we come into the last part of the race.
Coming to the line in the men's intermediate lightweight pairs final of these national championships. Belen Jesuit appears to have moved into the lead. The New York AC boat that had been in the lead has begun to fade. In the meantime, Cincinnati's Brennan and Wenck moving into third in front of Sarah Ballas and, Patrick and Feeney from New York AC. So here they come. We'll see how they all shake out at the line and who gets the gold medal for the men's intermediate lightweight pairs. Belen Jesuit still moving forward. The New York AC boat of Finley and Savares trying to catch up with them. In the meantime, Cincinnati's Brennan and Wenck trying to hold on, but it looks like a big push from Finley and Savares from New York AC, and they may come across in second. At the line, it is the New York AC boat just slightly ahead of Cincinnati. So it was Garcia Chacon Mullins from Belen Jesuit with the gold medal in the men's intermediate lightweight pair, followed by Finley and Savares of New York AC and Brennan and Wenck of Cincinnati. Indeed, a winning time for Belen Jesuit of 7:14.99, just a hundredth under 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Then Brennan and Wenck of Cincinnati, Patrick and Feeney of New York AC, followed by Sarah Ballas and Rudolph of Central Ohio, and Pigeon and Sahutsky from Detroit.
That was a good showing by the Belen Jesuit crew there in lane 1. They really stuck to their race and didn't let the early part of the race put them off, and they made their move and really did a great job of moving down the course and also kind of sticking to their lane, as we saw some issues in steering that can really hamper you early on if you have those problems, and you don't want to get kind of too down on yourself if you have some steering issues.
Earlier today, we saw Bushman and Bushman in the lightweight doubles have quite a showing and win the gold. Now the sisters racing against each other in the women's intermediate lightweight singles. The lineup is Ava Satterfield from Y Quad Cities in lane 1, Pamela Yeshuas from Lincoln Park in lane 2, Christy Bushman of Three Rivers in lane 3, Chloe Lewis of Vesper in lane 4, Rachel Bushman of Greater Columbus in lane 5, and Sailor Strugar, unaffiliated from USA, in lane 6. We have one of the Bushman sisters out front early. It's Christy Bushman of Three Rivers with open water lead over the second place boat of Chloe Lewis from Vesper, though I think Sailor Strugar, the unaffiliated boat in lane 6, might be challenging for that second spot right now. Not far behind, Rachel Bushman from Greater Columbus and Pamela Yeshuas from Lincoln Park.
This is certainly a very close race for second and third. Christy Bushman is commanding the beginning of the race, and as I remember from the other day, this is her race plan. She is going to jump out to a lead, and she's going to hold on to it and even extend it through the part of the race. So we're looking forward to some great racing, perhaps more for second and third here, with Christy Bushman really out in front again.
Bushman won her semifinal over her sister by almost 15 seconds, actually a little more than 15 seconds in yesterday's intermediate lightweight singles. So again, trying to make that statement right now, and doing so there in lane 3, Christy Bushman of Three Rivers.
Might make for some awkward dinner conversation there with their
well,
family
being
at
sisters,
the dinner table.
I'm sure they've had many back and forths.
Right,
So
I can only imagine.
as it goes. But a look at Christy Bushman as she continues to power down the course with an open water lead over the second place boat of Sailor Strugar on the affiliated boat in lane 6. In the meantime, Chloe Lewis of Vesper in third, but only by about a third of a boat length behind Strugar. Then it's back to Rachel Bushman and Pamela Yeshuas and Ava Satterfield in that order. But Christy Bushman, as you said, Jenny, much the same game plan as she had yesterday, out in front.
That's right. She's looking very strong there in lane 3. You have those Ava Satterfield is falling off the pack there in lane 1 on the far right of your screen. Pamela Yeshuas is looking pretty even right there with Rachel Bushman. They're going to try to battle it out, maybe for 4th place. But then Chloe Lewis and Sailor Strugar are looking good there. Sailor Strugar there at the top of the screen in lane 6. Really rowing her race plan, executing her race plan. But Christy Bushman appears to me to be a slightly higher stroke rating here than the rest of the pack.
Strugar had a very fine showing in the second of the semifinals for the lightweight singles yesterday, and as they cross the 1,000-meter mark, going head-to-head right now with Chloe Lewis from Vesper.
Right, so because it's just that single, it's just you. You have to answer to yourself and no one else. That's just such a tough boat to race, and these women are doing a fantastic job of sticking to their plan and executing to their plan and really giving it their all.
Still time to stop by the vendor village here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. Stop by the Connect a Dock tent, learn about discounts on your next rowing dock for your club or school. And the Gay and Lesbian Rowing Federation invites everyone to stop by their booth and learn about their worldwide online community and get a free Rowers Pledge sticker. And remember to visit Point Nemo, where 20% of all sales are going to ocean conservation. Some of the folks here at the National Championships at Harsha Lake. Christy Bushman continuing to lead while she's being chased by Sailor Strugar and Chloe Lewis.
Right, and Sailor Strugar is right off, slightly off to the left of your screen there, if we can get her in the shot. She's trying to challenge Christy, and she's putting some pressure from that outside lane. Let's see what she can do here in the third 500.
Strugar beginning to pick up the pace, sensing the beach and the finish line behind her as blue oars beginning to flash. Meanwhile, Christy Bushman, very calm and collected, out in front, and with 750 meters to go, still looking very smooth and confident.
That's right. Chloe Lewis really needs to step it up here if she hopes to rattle either of the top two. But she's looking pretty comfortable, at least for a podium finish right now. You can see her looking back to see where her competitors might be and if she'd be able to catch them with a surge.
Women's intermediate lightweight singles national championship final. A gold medal waiting at the finish line. Christy Bushman from Three Rivers continuing to lead with Chloe Lewis of Vesper and Sailor Strugar, the unaffiliated rower, both trying to chase her right now. Meanwhile, Satterfield from Wyquad Cities, Yeshuas from Lincoln Park, and Bushman from Greater Columbus in the hunt too. But really, Christy Bushman seizing control early on in this race and continuing to dominate.
Boy, she really is. She took a quick peek over to make sure of her position there, but she's still looking great. Again, just like yesterday, getting out to that early lead and just dominating it.
A 100 meters from the gold medal, Christy Bushman of Three Rivers in the women's intermediate lightweight single here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. Chloe Lewis and Sailor Strugar continuing their battle to see who gets silver. And as they come down to the line, Bushman crosses for the gold in 10 meters, and here comes both Strugar and Lewis. Lewis with the advantage. Strugar moving up quick, though, and crossing the line first in that yellow skull. It's Chloe Lewis from Vesper with the silver, and Sailor Strugar for the bronze. In the meantime, Pamela Yeshuas from Lincoln Park will cross in fourth, with Rachel Bushman from Greater Columbus in fifth, and Ava Satterfield from Y Quad Cities in sixth. The women's intermediate lightweight singles.
Christy Bushman taking a well-earned rest, a little dipping her feet in the water there, cool off after a great race.
The penultimate race of the morning for these national championship finals will be the men's intermediate single final. Zachary Petronic from Pittsburgh in lane 1, Peter Lowry of Saratoga in lane 2, William Chance of USTC Oakland in lane 3, John Caron from Orion in lane 4, James Mester of USTC Oakland in lane 5, and Kevin Kimber from Texas Center in lane 6. And burning down the course right now, Zachary Petronic of Pittsburgh wanting to make a statement here, Jenny.
Boy, he's trying to get that early lead, and he sure had it right off the start, but the rest of the pack is doing their best to catch up with him. I see that Peter Lowry is maybe hanging off a little bit towards the back, but given his performance yesterday, I'm expecting a late surge from him.
Already a boat length out for Zachary Petronic of Pittsburgh, and that boat length advantage over William Chance of the U.S. Training Center Oakland. In the meantime, it's also James Messner from Oakland and John Caron from Orion in there.
Right, and Kevin Kimber is also from Texas Center there at the top of the screen. He is still in the mix as well, but a surprise lead by Zachary Petronic, really trying to command this race as he approaches the end of the first 500. He must have just had a blazing fast start to jump out that quickly in the single. You can see his blade work from up above, really placing his oars well, getting a little bit of backsplash, not too much, and moving forward, not a lot of rocking back and forth. Really doing a great job there.
Petronic trying to make a statement after a photo finish in yesterday's semifinal number 2 of the men's intermediate singles. He was trying to chase down James Messner of Oakland. William Chance of Oakland was the one who won that intermediate, but those 3 boats were separated by about 3/4 of a second. So Petronic not going to rest on his laurels today, and he's going to go out there and try to beat both those USTC Oakland boats of Chance and Messner's in lanes 3 and 5.
That's right, he's trying to make his statement here, and he certainly is making it, at least for the first 500. Let's see if he can hold them off through the rest of the race, because I'm sure they are looking around and they're aware of where he is, and they're not going to let him get too far out ahead. At least that's going to be their goal.
Through 1,000, it is Zachary Petronic of Pittsburgh, with William Chance of USTC Oakland and James Mester of USTC Oakland in second and third. Kevin Kimber from Texas Center not far off. Peter Lowry, who snuck in with a big push at the end yesterday. He's hanging on, but slightly behind the pack, but out in front by a boat length. Zachary Petronic for Pittsburgh. Of course, you've got to wonder, Jenny, will he have the energy to maintain through the remaining third of the race?
You know, that's probably a question he's asking himself right now, Mark. He's really still looking pretty strong, but he hasn't extended his lead in the last 250 meters like he did in the first 500. So it seems like perhaps the rest of the pack is gaining slightly, or at least not letting him walk away like he probably wanted to.
Zachary Petronic from Pittsburgh continuing to lead these men's intermediate singles down the track for the national championship. William Chance from USTC Oakland in second. James Messner from USTC Oakland in third. Then it's Kevin Kimber in fourth. John Caron from Orion in fifth. And Peter Lowry of Saratoga in sixth.
Coming up on the 1,000 meters. And they're all still doing their best to try to hunt down Zachary Petronic, and it looks like they're making some headway. He doesn't have quite the commanding lead that he did previously. So it looks like James Messner and William Chance are really doing their best to try to reel him in at this point. He still has some open water. Let's see if we can hang on to it.
Meanwhile, Chance from Oakland being challenged by his teammate, Messner, for that second place spot. Chance with about a third of a boat length advantage over Messner, both of those battling. Petronic, though, still moving that boat through the water rather well. In the meantime, it's John Caron from Orion beginning to, it appears, take fourth place away from Kevin Kimber of Texas Center.
John Caron does seem to be making his move there at the pack, and Zachary Petronic is not as far ahead as he was during the beginning of the race, but he still has this if he can hang on to it in the last 250.
Last 250, a big push coming from these single scullers, but Zachary Petronic with quite a show here in the U.S. Rowing National Championships, the men's intermediate single final. The Pittsburgh rower pulling hard and continuing towards the finish. It's Chance from Oakland trying to chase him down, as is Messner, but Zachary Petronic really holding on to the lead as they come to the finish line in the gold medal for the men's intermediate singles. It is Zachary Petronic from Pittsburgh winning. William Chance from USTC Oakland in second with the silver. James Messner from Oakland with the third. Coming in fourth will be John Caron from Orion, followed by Peter Lowry from Saratoga, then Kevin Kimber from Texas Center. And Lowry with another big pullback, but ran out of water there. But what a show from Zachary Petronic for Pittsburgh, and the gold medal in the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships, the men's intermediate singles.
That must feel great for Zachary Petronic. Really took out that lead in the beginning, and he hung on to it, and it was really, maybe more of a mental game to get out to an early lead and just play with his opponents like that, but it was great racing, great to watch.
Here we go, a lovely view of the starting dock and the beginning of this last race of the morning session. The women's intermediate pairs underway. This is the final with Benestad and Lorem from Row West Racing Camp in lane 1. Fisher and Till from TBC Racing in lane 2. Battistoni Oaks in lane 3 from the under-19 women's selection camp. Peets and Clark from Badger Development Camp in lane 4. Cottle and Melcher from Badger in lane 5. And Sabo and Pushner from the U19 women's camp in lane 6. Now, I'm only counting 5 boats, and it looks like it's lane 1 that is blank, so I'm thinking that the Row West Racing Camp boat might be the one that is not racing in this women's intermediate pair final.
Boy, the blue boat there, Battistoni and Oaks, as well as Peets and Clark of the Badger Development, they had a great start. I love to see that overhead shot off the start, as you can see those kind of shorter strokes that the rowers take right off the line to get their boat up and going. So you take a series of those shorter strokes, and you have to make sure that you are really synchronized together as a team to get those shorter strokes and to move the boat, really move it up to speed, and then have your high strokes off the start and then settle into your race pace, which these rowers have done at this point.
Peets and Clark from the Badger Development Camp racing up and beginning to take the lead, with Battistoni and Oaks from the U19 Women's Selection Camp in second right now, but Cottle and Melcher from Badger Development Camp not far behind and continuing to stay in contact with those front two boats. Zabo and Pushner from the U19 Women's Camp right there with them, as is Fisher and Till from TBC Racing. But those two boats in the middle, Peets and Clark from Badger Development and Battistonian Oaks from the U19 Women's Selection, side by side right through the start. And lanes 4, 5, and 6 there, very close together with that boat in lane 3.
We saw some exciting racing from these intermediate pairs yesterday, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do today. Battistonian Oaks really looking strong here in lane 3 as they're powering it up, looking really relaxed, having a good rating, nice pull through together, really looking a little slightly more relaxed, I think, than lane 4, than Peets and Clark at this point in the race. But Peets and Clark, they have an edge currently, along with their teammates Cottle and Melcher, over Battistonian Oaks, and so we'll see if the U19 Women's Selection Camp boat can kind of execute their plan and stick with those boats and try to make a move in the middle of the course.
I love the overhead shot too, because it really did show and reveal the difference in the length of these boats, because I'm noticing that the boat of Battistonian Oaks from the U19 Women's Selection Camp is considerably shorter than the two boats from Badger.
That it is, and so that provides a challenge at the start to make sure that this race is fair, so that, because it depends on when the bow ball crosses, that really determines your finish. And so when you line these crews up at the start, what the officials are going to do is to find a line and to make sure that all of those boats are even across as they start, so that one boat maybe that has a longer shell, that's rowing in a longer shell, they don't have an advantage over maybe a shorter boat, simply because they're being held on at the start by their stern and not by their bow.
Rowing on Lake Mendota in Madison, Wisconsin, the Badger Development Camp had 18 entries in these national championships, 2 of them here in the national championship final for the women's intermediate pairs, and both those boats in the front right now and battling away. It's Peets and Clark in lane 4 and Cottle and Melcher in lane 5 from Badger Development. Third place right now belonging to the U19 Women's Selection Camp boat of Battistonian Oaks in lane 3, with the other two boats in the race, TBC's Fisher and Till in lane 2, and Zabo and Pushner from the U19 Women's Selection Camp battling there for 4th. But out in front, the two boats from Badger Development Camp.
That's right. It looked to me like there might be a slight edge for Cottle and Melcher at this point over Peets and Clark. But they are trading back and forth, and Battistonian Oaks are right there. So the top 3 at this point, even this far into the race, really could go to any of them. And not also to discount the TBC Racing boat. They are also still really in the mix there to the far right of the screen.
It could be, as we've seen in some of these races, just who has their oars in the water right at the finish, pulling to get that little bit of an advantage, that little bit of thrust to have their bow ball just ahead of the other.
That's right. It can come down to it, and that's why you see crews taking their ratings up to sprint at the finish. You want to get your blade in the water more often than your competitor, but you also don't want to sprint so soon that you gas yourself before the final couple of strokes and then you lose your momentum.
It does appear that Cottle and Melcher have a slight advantage right now, but if it's slight, I'm saying 6 inches, a slight, not much of a lead right now in the women's intermediate pairs.
Battistonian Oaks are still right in it here with the TBC Racing boat and the U19 Women's Selection Camp. They haven't fallen too far off the back, but it is really between the two Badger Development Camp boats for the most part, with Battistonian Oaks of the U19 Women's Selection Camp in lane 3 still in the mix.
Now advantage looks like to Peets and Clark of Badger Development, and Battistoni and Oaks really beginning to move up too. And we'll see as they enter the final 250 meters of this 2,000 meter race how they line up and what they do. But the Badger Development boats looking very, very strong. with Battistonian Oaks sticking right with them as they have all the way through the race.
You can see those crews really trying to take up their rating, see what they can do here in the last 250. Battistonian Oaks really wanted to surge late, but it seems that Peets and Clark might have the advantage. They are looking strong and really pouring it on here at the last 250 as they approach the final.
Indeed, Peets and Clark on the fly for the gold medal in the women's intermediate pairs. Coming down to the line, Battistonian Oaks have also begun to separate themselves from the other Badger Development Camp boat, and Battistonian Oaks on the move too. They were the fast qualifiers, the second fastest qualifiers, and as they come to the line, it looks like a wicked, wicked fight, but it appears that it is Peets and Clark from Badger Development for the gold, with Battistonian Oaks a big push at the end, having to settle for silver. The bronze will belong to Caudle and Melcher from the Badger Development Camp, and then it's going to be Fisher and Till from TBC Racing Crossing, followed by Szabo and Pushner from the U19 Women's Selection Camp. But what a race there at the end between those two boats, pulling hard and reaching for the gold here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships. I'm Mark Purcell with Jenny Bean Scubin. There's a lunch break happening, and then we'll return with some exciting racing in the women's and the men's elite senior singles. The first leg of the U.S. Lotman Challenge happening after the lunch break here at the 2019 U.S. Rowing National Championships from Bethel, Ohio. We'll be back at 12:30.